certainty of death, small chance of success. What are we waiting for?
Fellas, I feel this is my lucky day.
Brilliant.
Hey, and welcome to a new episode of Red for 2021. And as we're going to do our top 12 movies of 2021. And this is not going to be the same as a normal ranking. Like when it comes to 2021, I like giving everyone a chance to actually say what the top 12 is. So yeah. But I'm going to just pedal forward to do anything. We've got Jacob here. Jacob, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm excited to talk 2021 movies. There's quite a few I missed, but the ones that I have seen that are in my top 12, I absolutely loved and adore. So I'm excited to talk about them. And I'm excited to hear these people's lists too.
These people.
These people.
And we've got Danny. Danny, how's it going?
I am exhausted, my brain's fried, but I am so ready to talk about these movies. And I wasn't sure how excited I was going to be until I started talking to someone else about some of the movies. And I was just like, they were looking at me like, oh, you need to calm down. I was like, oh, no, I don't. These movies are fantastic.
Jade, we've also got JD here. JD, how's it going?
It's going good. It's going really good. I'm also very excited to talk about 2021 films. This was a really good year for movies. Like it really is. I can't think of too many movies that I thought were legitimately bad. It's varying degrees for the most part. So I'm very excited.
Also we've got Dylan. Dylan, how's it going?
It's going very well. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited, just like everyone else said. Great year for movies. A great year for like just diversity in movies, different genres, big blockbuster type films and smaller little indies. I tried to get a good mix of both. There are some big ones that I left off my list only because I'm assuming other people are going to bring it up, and there were just ones that just resonated with me most. And I love this because everyone has a different taste and brings their own point of view to a year in the movies that we've all watched. And I can't wait to hear everyone else's lists.
And also here we've got Jordan Owens. Jordan, how's it going?
Good.
But with that being said, how this is going to work is we're each going to go in a roundtable discussion, and each person will go say their 12 to 10, and then we'll go around until we reach the number one. So yeah, I did hear a bit of video, but I think it's gone. No, it's not. But anyway, I'm gonna start with Jordan. Jordan, what is your 12 through 10?
All right, the year of 2021. I didn't do this on purpose. I'm going to mention a lot of streaming sites. It seems like that first year. First, let's stop over at the land of Netflix for I Care a Lot. Rosamund Pike and Peter Dinklage, they're pretty bad people, but they're the kind of bad people you really enjoy watching. Only bad part is there's some ex machinas where people get into certain situations, some real coincidences. But it's a lot of fun with the dialogue. You're wondering where these characters are going to go, and a lot of great side performances too as well. I really dug I Care a Lot. Then you're going to pop on over to Hulu for Boss Level. Last year they did the great Palm Springs, kind of a romantic comedy, R-rated with the Groundhog's Day effect. This year we got the action version of that. Frank Grillo wakes up every day. People are trying to kill him. Lots and lots of people. You got an evil Mel Gibson with Matt TV's Will Sasso as his main apprentice. Some interesting revelations. They kind of keep it going with some interesting developments. I liked it a lot. And then finally, one more switch of the clicker. We'll go over to Apple TV, number 10, Palmer, with everyone's at least top 3 favorite NSYNC member, Justin Timberlake, given maybe his best performance, probably his best performance as a guy trying to get his life together who ends up looking after this kid and just wants the best for him and the struggles with that. Great, smaller performance by Temple, who's had a really great year on TV. And so yeah, those are the three that come to my mind at first. I Care a Lot, Boss Level, and Palmer.
Moving on, Dylan, what is your 12 through 10?
It's actually fitting that all three of these movies are very, very small movies that not many people saw, but I wanted to give a shout out to them. Number 12, I have The Tragedy of Macbeth. It is out in theaters now, but it is not on Apple TV Plus for another week, I believe. If you're a fan of Shakespeare, I think you will really, really dig this interpretation. Joel Cohen, half of the Coen brothers, directed this with his wife, Frances McDormand, starring as Lady Macbeth, Denzel Washington as Macbeth. This is just a stacked cast doing Shakespeare at its finest. And I really like the directorial side of things, how everything looks so different. It's just filled with all these different shadows and this beautiful black and white cinematography. It gives a really creepy effect. Macbeth is definitely one of my favorite Shakespeare plays, so to see it brought to life whilst keeping the integrity of the stage presence of the play, but also like bringing it to the cinematic eye and just reinterpreting it. It was just a really haunting, really, really great A24 film. It'll be on Apple TV Plus next week, so I recommend it. At number 11, another small film that came out. It was in the festival circuit last year in 2020, but it came out pretty much wide release this year. It's called Shiva Baby. It is on HBO Max now. You can go check it out. It is a really, really interesting little film. It's only about 70 minutes long. It is feature length, but it's a very short feature length film about a woman who is basically at a Jewish funeral, also known as a Shiva, who is with her family and runs into her sugar daddy and his wife, who just had a baby at the Shiva, while she's also confronting her ex-girlfriend and her family all at once. And it's this really claustrophobic. It almost feels like a thriller. It's meant to be a comedy, but it feels like a thriller because of all these different elements going on at this one party. And you really start to feel that sense of anxiety and claustrophobia that this girl is navigating as she's just in this one setting for the 70 minutes, and it really ends on a very much more positive note, but the journey to get there is just so full of little twists and turns that you wouldn't expect from an indie of its size. And then at number 10, I have a film by Mike Mills, who directed 20th Century Women a few years ago. It's called Come On, Come On, with Joaquin Phoenix. And it's about a man who basically has to take care of his nephew when his sister has to go live with, I think it's her ex-husband, or her estranged husband, and he has to basically take care of this nephew. And it's about how he kind of learns how to communicate with just his nephew, but also children in general. He is a documentary filmmaker, so he has a profession in trying to like get to the root of America and children in America and the future. And he asks all these questions about where America's headed in this next generation and the advancements and all that stuff with children. It's a great examination of children from an outsider. Joaquin Phoenix playing someone who is not as familiar with taking care of children or being around children. And the performances in this are amazing. Woody Norman, who plays the young boy, is incredible. He is a child, but he almost talks like an adult, and you get this real sense of maturity from him while also maintaining his youth. And the relationship that they have is really, really sweet, really beautiful. It's shot in black and white. It's gorgeous. And I really, really was a fan of Come On, Come On. That's two A24 films, Tragedy of Macbeth and Come On, Come On. But I'm a big fan of these smaller indies, and I do think they deserve bigger audiences. So those are my 12 through 10.
JD, what are your 12 through 10?
I figure some of these are going to be punted, but I had to be honest with my list and what I thought was at the bottom. So at number 12, I have Jungle Cruise. I thought that was controversial, I know. I had a lot of fun with that movie. I think Emily Blunt and The Rock have great chemistry, and just seeing their kind of like Indiana Jones, like marrying kind of like back and forth was just a lot of fun. Jack Whitehall is somebody I've been obsessed with since I watched Travels with My Father on Netflix, and I think he rounds out that trio fantastically. And Jesse Plemons is like the German royal, can do Jesse Plemons can never do any wrong for me. So are there elements that don't feel like they're in different movies, like the Edgar Ramirez, like Conquistador thing? Yes. But I love how they filled in like with the skipper jokes from the Jungle Cruise ride, and how they kind of filled that all in some of the Jungle Cruise lore and kind of merged it into this really enjoyable movie. So that's my 12. At number 11, this is the one where I think may be a punt, Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings.
It is. Yes, it is. We're punting
I'd
that.
like to clarify what punt means. Like, I mean, push it up or push it
We'll
down?
talk about it later. So if
Okay.
someone's got it high, yeah.
So you have it higher?
I do.
Okay,
Me too.
cool. All right. So then number 10, I have The Mitchells versus the Machines.
That's
It's
also
a
a punt.
Yeah, I know that's a controversial choice to have it that low, but I have another anime movie higher.
But with that being said, Danny, what are your 12 to 10?
My number 12, just because I kind of just literally ranked them as quick as I could, I put Nobody for my number 12.
It's my number 10.
Not bad. So do I say
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
about okay.
You can talk it because it's in the
Um,
same age.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure what I was gonna get from this movie, but I do like Bob Odenkirk, so I was like, okay, yeah, let's go into this. And I heard some good reviews about it, and I was surprisingly enjoying it. And I was like, hey, this is, kind of like a lot of people do compare it to John Wick for obvious reasons. And I really enjoyed it. Just the whole styling of it, the story. I liked the fact that he had, that he was, trying to go after his family's, kind of, I guess, doing them justice and everything like that. And I was just really pleasantly surprised with this movie. Like, I don't have a lot of bad things to say about it. And my number 11 is Ghostbusters, which I just recently watched the other day. And again, same kind of thing. Pardon?
Are we punting if it's slightly higher?
Yes, if it's higher, punt.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, all I really have to say about Ghostbusters is Paul Rudd. And that sealed the deal for me. And my number 10, what did I put? Venom, Let There Be Carnage is my number 10.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's a good pick. Good pick. That was very close on mine, but very.
That's
very good pick.
same here. It literally was my 13.
Yeah, I struggled where I was gonna put that on my list, and again, like I just literally ranked them really quick here. So, I wasn't sure about going to see it. Like I did actually go see this one in theaters, and I went by myself on a rainy day, and it ended up being a really good experience. And I have a soft spot for Venom anyways. I really enjoyed the first one, and I enjoyed the second one just as much. So that's my number 10.
Jacob, what is your 12 to 10?
Yeah, I have a feeling my number 12 might get punted. My number 12 is The Suicide Squad.
So punt.
Yeah, I figured. My number 11 is A Quiet Place Part 2.
That is a
Also
punt.
my number 11.
All right. Well, it's a punt for JD, so we'll win. And then, like I just mentioned, my number 10 is Nobody, and I actually just watched that today, like 5 hours ago, and I absolutely love that movie. It might even go higher the more I watch it, but on first watch, it was such a great movie, and it's quick. It's like 90 minutes. It's 90 minutes, and I feel like that's perfect for this movie. I feel like they left it open if they want to do more with it. Christopher Lloyd was just such a pleasant surprise in this movie. Him and Riza, like if we see like a buddy comedy action, whatever with them, just based off the end of this movie, I am all for that. The action was great, and just seeing Bob Odenkirk go from like 0 to 100, like on the bus was.
Oh yeah.
That was it was great.
That whole sequence was fantastic.
So, Jacob, I have a
was.
question. Do you prefer the bus sequence in Nobody or the bus sequence in Shang Chi?
Oh shit!
Because there are two really good bus sequences.
I'll talk about that when we talk about Shang Chi.
Great segue for later.
And yes, for me, most of my bottom three are probably going to be punted. At number 12, I've got No Time to Die.
Nope.
Haven't seen it.
For me, like No Time to Die was a perfect sort of cap to the Daniel Craig sort of era. This was such an enjoyable movie. I enjoyed every minute of it. And I'm not going to. One thing I should have actually mentioned. There's going to be potentially be spoilers depending on, but especially with a certain movie we're going to be talking about. But yeah, I mean, but I didn't like this one's like a lot of people criticize this for killing off Bond. I think this was a sort of great way to sort of one to do it to sort of cap it off. Where this can go from here is still up in the air, but I'm curious to see where they go from here. Number 11 is A Quiet Place Part 2, which we'll talk about later. My number 10 is Cruella.
It was another one to just merely miss my list.
Um, but yeah, Cruella is one that I was pleasantly surprised by this. Because this is one that's like, this is a, I mean, it's not a live action remake. Like, I know this ends up in a lot of Disney live action remake lists. It's not. It's essentially a prequel.
Yeah.
And this is one of those ones that I really enjoyed. Like, this was fun. And I'm curious to see where this goes from here. Like, because whether the sequel will have the rise of Cruella to the villain we know from 101 with Dalmatians. This is definitely going to be interesting to see where this goes. I can't wait for all of that. But with that, we move over to the 9 to 7. Jordan, what is your 9 to 7?
All right, let's see. Coming in at number 9, and we talked about before, so let's see if it's punted more. 9 is where I have Shang-Chi.
What was it?
9 is where I have Shang-Chi.
Punt.
Shang-Chi.
So I'm here to talk about it.
Yeah,
So-
no, I think we can talk about Shang-Chi now. Because,
Okay. I was just sorry.
It's my number
Yeah,
7.
so, a lot of fun Marvel movie here, man. As already mentioned, the scene. I like the fact that they didn't try to super shoehorn in, romantic relationship and just and Aquafina. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the father elements. He has to become a CGI battle in the end. I thought it was still a really cool, engaging battle at itself that has still had me in. And it's another universe, man. I like that. They didn't shoehorn in many other things from Marvel. It kind of felt like it stood on its own. And another universe I'm very much looking forward to seeing more of in the future. For 8 is Cage and Pig.
Punt.
What was that?
Punt that. Pig. Pig at number 8. We're going to punt it.
Punt.
I heard you.
what was the movie? I couldn't quite catch what the movie was.
Pig. Pig.
Oh yeah,
Pig.
punt for Pig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then for 7, I have the Ghostbusters Afterlife. Lots of fun, good fan service, but still lots of good humor, lots of great heart. And it's the movie we had kind of wanted for a while, and we got it. So a lot of fun. So there's my 9 for 7.
Dylan, what is your 9 to 7?
Yeah, my number 9. This is another smaller movie, but I feel like it got a little bit more, a few more eyes than some of the others because it was on a major streaming service. It was on Apple TV Plus, and that is Coda.
Punt.
Oh, there we go. Cool.
Punt.
Very cool. Number 8 is a film that was nominated for the Oscars last year, but it didn't even get a festival release till 2021. So I don't know if this counts, but I have Judas and the Black Messiah at 8.
Punt.
That's
I'll
punt.
punt.
Great. Number 7, this might also be a punt. I don't know. Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 1. Anyone?
Punt.
Punt. Cool. All right. That's it for me.
JD, what is your 9 to 7?
So my number 9 was punted, which was Pig. My number 8 is the Sparks Brothers. I generally like that was the Edgar Wright movie that I was just really fascinated with. I had no idea what the Sparks were. This kind of just like really weird, like British American band, but has really British sensibilities. And it was just their music. I was just hearing that soundtrack. Like I was just endlessly obsessed with. So that's my number 8. I thought that was very well done. My number 7 is The Matrix Resurrections.
That's
Um,
very close for me. Good pick.
I struggled where to put this on my list because, like, I have a coworker, and I think his opinion is very accurate about Matrix Resurrection, which is, depending on how you feel about the trilogy as a whole, is how you feel about the movie. So the first act, I felt like, oh, I was really on board with this kind of meta take of remaking the first Matrix movie. And then number two, I'm like, oh, I wish we weren't spending so much time in the real world. And then it got me back in the third act, and I was like, the second act and the third act was condensed. I think this would have been really high on my list. But that being said, I had a lot of fun with it. I think Keanu Reeves was really good, and so was Carrie-Anne Moss back as Trinity. I actually also liked Jonathan Goff's take on Agent Smith. I just thought that was kind of really fantastic. Just the kind of meta commentary on their relationship, the yin to Neo's yang. There's a lot that I really, and I think the ending is like it's a really nice wrap up to the series as a whole if you want it to be. And if you want to explore more, if they decide to, you can. It works either way, which I think is just, I would prefer that there's no more. I think you wrapped it up perfectly well enough here. We're good. But if they did, there's stuff to explore. So that was my number 7. And I think we're on to Danny.
Danny, what is your 9 to 7?
My number 9 is, I guess, a smaller film. I had no interest in watching it at first. And then I realized, oh, this is who's directing it. This is who's in it. And I was like, okay, let me go into it. I didn't watch any of the trailers or anything, so I went into it pretty blind, aside from knowing who directed it and who was in it. And that is For Those Who Wish Me Dead. And I had no idea what the heck was going on, and I loved it. Like, it was a very clear cut what was going on once the story got started. But like right from the beginning, I was thinking, what am I jumping into? And once I hit play, my mind was locked. I loved the movie actually a lot more than I thought I was going to. I'm also a sucker for Angelina Jolie. She's been one of my favorite female actresses for a very, very long time. And I think she can pretty much pull off anything. I'll argue with anyone about that. And I liked everyone in the movie, everyone who had a small role or a larger role. I feel like all the pieces fit, and anything that, even, I mean, as most movie lovers are, we try and guess things that happen, and anything that I tried to think, oh, this is what's going to happen, it didn't. And it kept me guessing, kept me on my toes. I love that movie. So that is my number 9. My number 8, I was debating even putting it on my list, and I went and I rewatched it, and you know what? It might not necessarily be best, as in it's a good movie, but I had a killer time watching this movie, and that is Mortal Kombat. I just have fun with it. I know it's very controversial based on what happened. My only complaint about the movie as a whole was that there wasn't enough of Sub-Zero and Scorpion. That was my only complaint, because everything else, I actually enjoyed that there was something new added, that they tried to do something new. And to me, that was worth it. And I thought pretty much, it was like, hey, you know what? I had fun watching this movie. So that is my number 8, and my number 7 is Jungle Cruise. And just to basically play off of JD, the chemistry between The Rock and Emily Blunt was beautiful. Jesse Plemons, same thing. I was just like, who is this guy? What is happening here? Why is he so funny? I haven't seen him in anything else that I remember, so I didn't know how good he was. So for me, it was like, why are you so hilarious? I'm loving it. So that's my 9 through 7.
Jacob, what is your 9 to 7 through 7?
My number 9 is Tick Tick Boom.
Punt.
All right. My number 8 was a punt from earlier. It's Mitchell's versus the Machines.
It's my 7, so you can talk about it.
I love this movie. I was a little late to it, but just based on word of mouth, it sounded like I was really going to enjoy this, and I did. This movie was fantastic. It's my favorite animated movie of 2021. I liked the family aspect of it, but I also liked the robot apocalyptic aspect to it, and I think they merged the two together very well. The voice cast is fantastic. It's got a lengthy runtime for an animated movie, but I think it fills it really well, and there's nothing I would take out. Like it's paced pretty well. And yeah, it's just such an enjoyable animated movie. It's from the people that did Spider-Verse, so that was a plus going into it. And yeah, I really enjoy this movie, and it's one that I'll probably revisit a lot. So that's my number 8, and my number 7 is Shang-Chi. I absolutely love this movie. I tried watching it once, but it was like really late, and so I ended up falling asleep with like 45 minutes into it. And so I rewatched it, and I did not mind rewatching like that first 2/3 of the movie at all, because like it features that bus scene, and that bus scene, that's probably like one of my favorite action scenes like all year. It's so good. The fight choreography in this movie is just so well done. Um, Aquafina is somebody I'm like hit and miss on,
Yeah,
and this
I
one
agree.
is definitely a hit. Like she kills it in this movie. The final battle with the dragons, like I was like, all right, of course there's dragons, of course there is,
Yeah, why
and
not?
I loved every second of it. I liked that the villain, like the dad, he kind of succeeded in what he wanted to do. Like he wanted to breach that and get to his wife. The only problem was his wife wasn't actually back there. And by the
Yeah.
way, he said spoilers, so anyone who gets mad, I'm sorry. Um, he kind of succeeds, and I wasn't expecting that. Like you don't see a lot of villains succeed in what they want to do, like
Yeah.
fully, except for maybe Thanos. So that was surprising. But yeah, like once Shang-Chi gets those rings, like, oh man, I'm ready for more of this character. The end
Yeah.
credit scenes, they got me pumped for the future of this character in the MCU, and I think he's going to be a big player in the MCU going forward.
And the 10
Before I
ring,
move on,
the
who
10
else-
ring is going to be
Like,
huge.
who else said Shang-Chi?
Yeah, and I did.
Yeah. Yep. So you guys can talk about it too.
Yeah, the reason I had it ultimately lower is because I do feel like the third act falls back into the MCU tropes, and that's why I ultimately had it lower. But I agree, and I struggled with having multiple superhero movies on here, and I did add another one, obviously, but we'll talk about later. But or multiple MCU movies in particular. But I agree, it's a lot. MCU is with their villains. I think they've been most improved with their villains, like between Shang-Chi with the Mandarin, Thanos, Killmonger, like even Icarus from Eternals. I didn't have that on my list. I struggled with that, but I don't think it's the best movie this year. MCU has been really been doing a lot of interesting things with their villains lately, which I'm really impressed by.
I didn't even mention Ben Kingsley coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was such a
That
pleasant
too.
surprise. Like
Yes.
and it works, and it kind of sort of redeems Iron Man 3 in a way, and it just makes that much more enjoyable when you know that, like, okay, well, this is what's coming. So yeah, and one thing I did want to mention is like I did like that we didn't spend too much time like on the backstory at the beginning, but rather it was weaved throughout as it was
Yeah.
necessary, and I really thought that worked well in the movie as well.
Um,
Can't wait for that 10 Rings Disney Plus series that's going to come.
Is that actually a thing, or are you?
No, I'm having. He's working. The director is working on a Disney Plus series, and my guess it's the 10 Rings. That's just my guess, but that's speculation.
I mean, I think that's everyone's guess, as it hasn't officially been announced. But Jordan, I think you also had Shang-Chi. So yeah,
I kind of said my piece about it before. I said what I liked.
Okay. But moving on to my 9 for 10, and my one thing I'll say is I'm using the US. I always use the US wide release for my thing. So with that being said, my 9 is Nomadland. Like Nomadland was the best picture winner of this year, but there was once again it was one of those weird release things, but it had its wide release this year.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it in 2020. Otherwise, I would have put it on my list because it deserves a spot. It deserves some notability. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those ones. Like I enjoyed Nomadland. Like Francis McDormand was great. I mean I've talked about this on many things already, especially Gone with the Wind and all that. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. My number 8 was Tick Tick Boom. And I think that was
I punted.
And my number 7 was Mitchell's vs. the Machines. This was the animated movie like that came out really early on in the year, which has been staying up in this spot. I think I've rewatched it once since it came out, and it's just really good. I mean, it shows Full Lord and Chris Miller are not to be slept on. Like they know the animated, and it's just. And I can't wait to see what they do with Spider-Verse across the Spider-Verse. But now we're going to move on to one at a time. So, Jordan, what is your number 6?
All right, coming in at my number 6. I had to punt it before. A Quiet Place Part 2.
Still punt.
Let's punt it again.
Wow, I must have had it real low.
Dylan, what is your number 6?
I have The Green Knight. I don't know if anyone else has it. This was David Lowery's newest film. It's a medieval film. Movies like this aren't really my thing, so I expected to enjoy it but not love it. And when I saw it, I fell in love with it. I thought it was really, really spectacular visually. I thought it was really interesting. It is objectively one of the most gorgeously designed films of the year. The story could be hit or miss with other people, but I really enjoyed the slow burn of it. It's one of those films that's not rewarding until you get to that last 20-minute montage where it kind of recontextualizes everything that came before. Alicia Vikander is my favorite actress, so seeing her play not one but 2 roles was freaking awesome. And she plays them very, very well. She would be in my consideration for Best Supporting Actress this year, even though it will never happen. But David Lowery's really just impressed me with all his range. He did A Ghost Story, which is so tragic and sad. He did Pete's Dragon, which was so joyous and made me so happy. And then he does this film, which is kind of dark and has those both tragic and lighter tones all mixed together. The visual effects are great. The actual just premise of the the hero's journey is just so great. I mean, there are a lot of hero's journeys this year that came out. 2 big notable ones, one that got punted already, but this one was slightly better for me. I really just enjoyed the spectacle and everything that they had to offer with that film. So that is my number 6, The Green Knight.
And just because it's taken a lot quick to get through the bottom 6 of everyone's list, I'm going to give everyone a chance to talk about all the movies that we talk about. Has anyone not seen The Green Knight? Just so I don't talk.
I haven't seen it.
I have seen The Green Knight. I liked The Green Knight a lot. I think I struggle. I think sometimes it's very heavy-handed, and I think I also think the stylization sometimes is for just stylization's sake. It depending on how many honorable mentions, it probably would hit my honorable mentions, but that's kind of why I struggled with it on my list.
That's fair.
Yeah, I was choosing between this and Nobody to watch today, and I obviously ended up choosing Nobody. So,
yeah, I mean, I also watched The Green Knight when it dropped on Amazon Prime the other day. This is, I mean, It's fine. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I mean, this is one of those ones that's got really limited dialogue. Like it's, and I mean, if it's one of those ones that if it doesn't get nominated for a few of the technical ones in the back end of the Oscars, then I'll be really surprised because like the technical side of things, this is a technically good movie.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get invested in the story.
Yeah, it's very divisive in that sense. But yeah, the visuals are great. Yeah.
But JD, what is your number 6?
My number 6 is Encanto.
There's a
So
punt.
what?
There's a punt.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
cool.
Danny, what is your number 6?
My number 6 is The Last Night in Soho.
Ooh, that was so close. That was my number 14. That was like right on the bubble. Love it.
No puns, right? I'm hearing that right.
Yep.
You know what? It wasn't going to be so high on my list. However, the more I talked about it to other people, I actually got really excited talking about it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back and watch it. And so I went back and I watched it, and I loved it even more the second time I watched it. And I went into it, again, kind of similar to For Those Who Wish Me Dead. I went into it pretty blind, not really knowing entirely what it was about. I think I watched the first trailer, and again, like, I knew who directed it, I knew who was in it, so I basically just put my faith in that, and there I went. And what I thought it was going to be was a movie set in the 60s. That's what I thought it was going to be. Is there anyone here who hasn't seen it?
I haven't seen it.
Okay. I won't give any like super spoilers or anything like that, but it basically kind of does do a little bit of present day and then goes into the 60s. And usually I actually don't care for that trope when movies do that, flip-flopping. That's not something I generally like, but I enjoyed the way that they did it within this movie. And I forget the lead actress's name. Does anyone know it offhand? But
Thomasin McKenzie.
Yeah, Thomasin McKenzie. Yep.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yes, her. She was fantastic, and the way that she and Anya Taylor-Joy kind of mirrored each other, I was just, the twists, the turns, the cinematography, the music, the actors, everything about it. You know what? Like I said before, the more I talked about it to other people, the more I was excited about the movie, because initially when I first saw it, I thought to myself, I don't know who I'd recommend this movie to. I felt like it's more of kind of a niche film where you'd have to find that person who you knew, oh my gosh, you're going to love this movie. And so that is my number 6.
JD, what did you think of Last Night in Soho?
I thought it was fine. I have a somewhat controversial opinion because Dylan knows, like, there are a lot of people in like our Discord chats that loved Last Night in Soho, and I thought it was fine. I agree the lead performances between Mackenzie and Anya Taylor-Joy were great. I was really on board for like the first half, and then it got really heavy-handed and really like, and I'm like, no, I was like, I wish you kept it subtle. You didn't need to bang us over the head with your message. I got the message. Like, I really understood it, and when it did that, I'm like, oh. And it was. But again, that's kind of my thoughts.
I can see that, though. I can see that for sure.
Dylan, what did you think of Last Night in Soho?
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's my 14. It was like 2 away from making it on the list. I really like this one. I think Edgar Wright is one of my favorite directors. So to see people say like this was his worst film, I was surprised. And then I went and watched it. I was like, no, this is like really good. It might not be his best. I have so many others that I love so much just because I've had time with it. But I like just seeing him kind of flex a different set of tools. He kind of does the same kind of comedy, like a very upbeat, and everything about this is paced super fast. It's very like stylized editing. It is a little heavy-handed, but I think that's kind of always been his thing. But I think he just brings a darkness and a depth to his storytelling that I don't think I've ever seen. And Baby Driver gets there occasionally, but it still does have that energy. Whereas this feels more like, like he's trying to step outside the box and do something different, which I really appreciated. And the performances are great. Just the way the imagery between the two girls throughout, like that one scene where they're dancing and it's all practical effects. It's not visual effects of them just transitioning back and forth between the two. I mean, it's in the trailer. It just immediately just struck me, and I was just elated to see it unfold before my eyes in the cinema. So I was very excited about this film. I still am very excited. I can't wait to revisit it. I've only seen it once, but yeah, no, I was a big fan.
And Jordan, you said you'd seen last night on Soho?
No, he said he didn't see it.
Didn't. Yeah, I haven't. This is what I wanted to see. But I will say, Thomasin McKenzie is a New Zealand treasure.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah, no, she's great.
But Jacob, what do you have as your 6?
My number 6 is Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Ooh.
Yeah. I don't care that it's 4 hours. I don't care that it's a director's cut of a movie released 4 years ago. I thought this was the Justice League movie I wanted 4 years ago. I didn't think we were going to get it. I think it absolutely improves on everything from the 2017 Justice League. It's dark, which I like. It gives time for these characters, and you definitely care about Cyborg more. And the Flash I think he's used a lot better here. Yeah, I don't care that it's 4 hours.
It's 4 hours.
It's 4 hours. If that does turn you off.
No, it doesn't turn me off. I literally haven't. Sorry to cut you off.
No.
I just haven't had the 4-hour window to do it. I want to watch it. I do. I haven't yet. It's like, okay. Even looking at my own 12, what I was able to fit in time for, I wouldn't have been able to fit in time for half of these, I don't think.
and that's the thing. I get that this movie, not a lot of people would probably have it this high, even in their top 10. Obviously, Malcolm made that known in the chat. But I really enjoyed this. I didn't mind the 4 hours. If that does turn you off to the movie, they do break it up into 6 parts, so there are moments where you can step away if you need to, if you can't watch an entire 4-hour movie. They do that. And yeah, no, I think it's the more I think about it, the more I love it. It could even end up being higher as I rewatch it. So yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think it was originally supposed to be a 6-part miniseries, little limited series or something. Which honestly, I think they should have done that. But that being said, you're not the only one. I've seen it in their top 10 lists of this year. There's been some other people who have had it. I mean, I'm not going to judge anyone for having it on their list because it's their list, and if they like. A lot of people consider it different to the other one. Like the way I looked at it, it is essentially the same movie, just a little bit extended and changed up a little bit. But
it's double the runtime.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's the thing though, and I think, and I will say it because I think a lot of people are forgetting that if this is probably not what we would have gotten back in 2017 if Zack Snyder hadn't had to depart for family reasons. Warner Brothers would have said, you're going to have to cut this down a little bit. This is essentially the way I see it as a rough draft or something that would have been edited down a little bit with a director's cut to come out on DVD later down the line, like BVS. But Jordan, what are your thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League?
I'm with you both. I'm with you, Malcolm, as far as I agree that it's an extended cut. Where do we draw that line? Can I have Daredevil's director's cut on 2 different years list? It's hard. I get it. It's a better movie for sure. But like you said, like this is not the movie we would have had even if Snyder was in control. They would not have let a 4-hour movie into theaters. So it's kind of like a mini series almost in a big way. Like it's kind of cheating the system to say this counts with all the other 2-hour, 3-hour movies. Obviously, 3 is very rare. But yeah, it's a good movie. Don't get me wrong. It's a little self-indulgent as far as you can tell. Like I got no time. No time limit? All right. A little self-indulgent here and there. Better movie for sure, but yeah, it's not. I'd even consider putting it in my list because I 5 years ago.
It's okay to be wrong.
Yeah,
What are your
like
thoughts on Zack? What are your thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League?
Yeah, I like Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think it's interesting to see it all after all this news and controversy and all this stuff broke, just to see the end product. It's actually pretty impressive that it was just able to happen at all. I do agree it is very long, but then again, if you go to the theaters like 20 minutes early to get your popcorn, then sit through 20 minutes of trailers, that's 40 minutes plus Avengers Endgame. Kind of is the same length of going to the theaters to see Avengers Endgame. I like to put it in perspective that way. Like, I mean, I'm fine with a long movie experience, but I get it. I mean, it is long, but I really like it. I think it's very well done. I like when a director is able to just like have his full say on what happens in a movie. Obviously, not every movie can be that because of studio reasons and just the amount of times you can play it at theaters, all that stuff. But I like this opportunity to just let Zack Snyder just have his vision seen through to the end. But yeah, I like it. Wouldn't make my list, but I appreciate the pick.
Yeah. And JD, what are your thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League?
So as you saw, I have no poker face. That's kind of obvious. Like, I wish I liked this movie more. I think there's a solid 3-hour movie in there, but I think you said it was a little self-indulgent. I think it was super self-indulgent. Like the shots of like Aquaman, like a 2-minute shot as they're serenading him as he goes into the scene, and then a 12-minute setup for a 2-minute robbery, like just stuff like that. I was just like, like I like Zack Snyder, the world builder. I don't like Zack Snyder, the director, if that makes sense. Like, I think he has a lot of interesting ideas. I think he doesn't know how to cut himself back. And that's my biggest problem with it. I actually preferred 2017. But I respect the pick. I don't agree. If that makes sense.
But yeah, I'm also a super defender of 2017's Justice League. I do enjoy that version of it. But anyway, let's stop talking about DC and let's talk about DC because my number 6 is the Suicide Squad.
What was that, sorry?
My number 6 is the Suicide Squad.
Punt.
Yeah, I'd say punt actually. Punt.
That was my number 12, guys.
Not on my list.
Jordan, what is your number 5?
All right, let's see here. I punted it before. Let's see if it needs to get punted again. Judas and the Black Messiah.
That is my 5.
Yeah, that was my 8.
All right, let's talk about it then, guys. Yeah, I think this definitely has to be it. This is definitely, I feel, not a discussion. 2021. It is a 2021 release. Just fantastic, great performances here, great story to be told. Something that I didn't know, have a full knowledge of. So it was fascinating. It was heartbreaking. Daniel Kaluuya, Lakeith Stanfield, even my favorite little performance by Little Rel Howery is a little bit different than what you've seen him do before. I just thought super well directed. Like it's a gripping story. You're able to see it on HBO Max if you weren't able to go to the theater. So I think that was good for me to get it and whatnot. So yeah, I just thought it was really, really well made. Reason why it was sweeping up some awards last year.
Yeah, I like. This is a movie that I didn't know what to expect, and I blindly I went to see it in the cinemas, because I was there. It was like I didn't know, there wasn't really anything else to watch. It was like, I'll go give this a shot. I've no idea what to expect. Like, I don't think I actually ever watched the trailer for it, but this was such a delight. And like, like this is one of those stories which is just sort of shows like gangs and all that sort of in a different light in a way. There's I know a lot of people go, "Oh, like, oh, gangs are always these evil things that want to destroy the world." This shows that that's not what they want to do. There's a lot of heart to the gang life, and to go into that area, I think it was really good and a smart way to do it. But yeah, Dylan, what did you think of Judas?
Yeah, it was my number 8. I think only because it has been so long since I saw it that like other movies have just like stood out more that it's higher. But I mean, it's number 8. It's still in the list. It is incredible. I mean, the performance of Daniel Kaluuya especially is just one of the best performances of the last few years. Male, female, supporting lead, anything. Like he just brings his all to that role, and I'm so glad he got the Oscar. It really just is a masterpiece of what it is of the type of story it is. It's a biopic, it's a black story, but it is a masterpiece in blending them all together and making it feel like it has this urgency that it needs. And it doesn't just feel like a by the books biopic, even though like in a different director's hands maybe it would be, the script maybe would be, but the actual direction of it by Shaka King, he just brings a new energy to it that I think is really that I really appreciated, about a story that I have not heard, and I think it should be told because this is a very powerful story, but also one that we could learn from just as a society. So yeah, very powerful piece. I'm glad it made a few of your lists.
JD, what did you think of Judas and the Black Messiah?
I really enjoyed this movie. So full disclosure, when it comes to my list, I had to draw a line somewhere. So where I draw the line was if it qualified for the Oscars the year before, like if it like competed in the 2021 Oscars, that's where I kind of cut the line on some of these movies. So like you're not going to see Judas and the Black Messiah. It's also why you didn't see I Care a Lot, or like there was another one that I was considering, 9 Days, which technically came out this year also, but it was technically part of the previous award season, had like a 1 week limited release before to qualify for last year's Oscars. So I didn't put that one either. So I agree. It's for all the reasons you guys said, it's really great. I just, for my list, I cut out all the 2021 Oscars.
Danny, have you seen Judas and the Black Messiah?
No, I haven't.
Jacob?
Not yet.
Dylan, what is your number 5?
Oh, that's right. I don't know if it'll be higher. I know it was a punt from earlier. Tick, tick, boom. Anyone have it?
That is still a punt.
Still a punt. Love it. Love to hear it.
All right.
JD, what is your number 5?
So my number 5 was punted from earlier. I believe everybody's punted at this point. A Quiet Place Part 2. Yes, I put this high. It was the first movie that I went back to. I did this and Cruella as a double feature. That was like the first weekend back I went back to the movies. I think this is just pure quality 90-minute. I think the 90-minute movie is a brilliant art form, and I think this film is just, it's very rare to do it correctly, and I think this is just a well cut quality piece of filmmaking. I think John Krasinski directs the hell out of this movie. The creatures are still terrifying as ever. I liked how they separated the family this time. Like, Emily Blunt and the young son they have their own story trying to survive in the bunker. And then we get to see the world more. We get to see more of the world, which is just so great. And I think Cillian Murphy is like all humans are bad, and like then slowly changing his mind. While it's a maybe a well-known horror trope, I think he does it really well, and I really like the dynamic between what's her name, Maleficent Simmons. she continues to be. I wish she got more. Gets more roles because I think she's just brilliant and really anchors this movie, taking over from John Krasinski.
Aside from me and Jacob, who else hit it? Jordan. So Jacob, what did you think of A Quiet Place Part 2?
I really enjoyed it. I had it at 11, so a little lower, but I still really enjoyed this. I was worried that it was just going to be A Quiet Place, but then, just in part 2 form, like just what did they do afterwards? And I liked that we got more dialogue and that it didn't feel like it was a copy of the first movie. That we really got to see more of the world and we got to see more characters and more human interaction. I thought the performances were all great. I think Jaimin Hansu was really good in his limited screen time. Cillian Murphy was fantastic and a welcome addition to this. And just kind of that opening scene, kind of seeing the backstory of how these monsters, originated and came to Earth. I just think it was a really well done sequel, and it's on par with the first one for me. It's really close. So yeah.
Yeah, this was also my 11. And this is it fell this low for me because I had only seen the first one sort of very recently. I only saw the first one for the first time last year as well. And I got to see this in a cinema. And just to the fact, when you get a movie where barely anyone, no one talks at all in the cinema. This is just one of those ones which you can really eerily get it. In the screening I went to, there was one person that started doing behind me. I just turned around and said, "The movie's called A Quiet Place. Shut up."
Love it.
That's amazing.
But that this movie is great. And I can't wait to see where they go from here. Because so I think there's a part 3 and a spin-off coming. From what I've heard, I think there's at least 2 different ones. So I don't. But Jordan, what did you think of A Quiet Place Part 2?
Yeah, I really liked it. It's my number 6. I have these hats to live up to the first one. I love the first one too. Also my top 10 of that particular year, but it did for me, man. Great opening scene, giving us a little bit of Krasinski and some backstory. Great tension. They know how to build tension and around characters you gotta care about. You know what I mean? I love the performance by the daughter again in this movie here. Cillian Murphy. Instantly, when I saw he was in the cast, I was already a little more. I love that dude every time he's on screen, and I love his character arc in this. And yeah, it did the right thing, man. It kept the spirit of the first one, but expanded it more as showing us a little bit more of the world and what's going on, how some of the people are reacting, but also some good people too. I like that they showed us the good of the world as well as also out there. I thought it was a good choice as well as the bad. So yeah, I really liked this as well.
And Dylan, what did you think of A Quiet Place Part 2?
I really enjoyed it. It's not on my list only because this was a great year for movies, but I did really enjoy it. It's one of my favorite horror films of the year, and I just love the gelling of the cast, as you all have said, but also the ability to kind of split them up. I love at the end how all those multiple scenes are just kind of cutting back and forth with one another. There's a seamlessness to it. He almost has a Spielbergian quality of his direction that I was at times I was I might be watching a Spielberg film. It was that impressive, and I really think he's a great director. I want to see him kind of branch out outside the horror genre because I think a lot of the strengths of the film aren't even the horror aspects, which makes him a really well-rounded director already in just 2 films. So I'm excited to see what he has up his sleeve for the future. But
have you seen his other film, The Hollers?
Oh, I didn't even know he did that. I thought he just did the 2 Quiet Place films. My bad.
He did The Hollers. It's a directorial debut, but it shows kind of where he's going. I actually really
cool. I'll check it out.
And Danny, have you seen A Quiet Place Part 2?
Nope.
JD, what do you have your 5?
That was me. I just did my 5.
Danny, what was your 5?
My number 5 is actually Shang Chi. And I didn't really say much when everyone else was talking about. The only thing the thing I think I love the most, aside from how vibrant and beautiful the movie was and how mystical it was, like that was like a number 1 that I've gone back and rewatched it, and I still love that aspect. But I think one of my favorite things was Sean and Katie and their relationship, and I think that an important thing, I think, even in my life, but even within movies or MCU movies in particular, or superhero movies in particular, that platonic relationship that doesn't all of a sudden grow at the end into shit just because of story. And that made my heart so happy to see at the end of the movie that they're still just friends, and that they have that loyalty there, they have that friendship there. Their chemistry was so great. I too, I forget who said, I think it was Jacob, you said about having an iffy relationship with Aquafina. Me too. It's very hit or miss usually. The last thing that I saw her in that I really liked was the Jungle Book, not Jungle Book, well, Jumanji. Too many J's. Very different movies. Jumanji, The Next Level, I really liked her in that too. So I really liked her in this, and I liked all the moving parts. So Shang-Chi is my number 5.
Yeah, I was one that didn't talk about Shang-Chi. It was close to making my top 12. I enjoyed it, but it's just, once again, it's just one of those ones that there's a lot of movies I enjoyed this year, and it just unfortunately keeps on sliding out. Anyone else not talk about Shang-Chi before?
I didn't
Dylan.
talk about it because it wasn't on my list, only because, again, so many great movies. But it's a
Yeah.
great Marvel like origin story. I like how the origin story is told dispersed rather than all at the beginning, because if it had done that, I would have probably been very bored. But it's very colorful. I almost, like JD said, the third act is where it gets a little bit
Yeah.
more MCU. Everything's kind of
Hokey.
gray. Everything's gray and it's all muddled down. I was like, keep it bright, keep it colorful. I like the trees and the greens and the reds and all the
Yes.
other colors besides gray. But it was just exciting. I didn't know it was going to take the fantasy route at the end with the dragons and almost like
Yeah.
those little Pokemon-like creatures. That was really exciting, and I like how the MCU is now like kind of going in that direction, going to more
Yeah.
fantasized realm. Between that and the Eternals, we got a lot more of like that fantasy side of the MCU rather than just like the grounded like Captain America, like it could be anyone type story. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And that bus sequence, I do think I lean with the Nobody bus sequence, but both are very, very good bus sequences. And it's amazing that we got 2 really, really great bus sequences in the same year.
I lean towards Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add to, because I know it was mentioned before, Ben Kingsley in this movie. There are a lot of people that are quite divisive on him being in the movie and his role in the movie. There are some people that said, "Oh, why was he there? And he was there too much. His comedy wasn't right." And I am a defender and lover of Iron Man 3, regardless of the BS twist. I
Me too.
love that movie, and it's also a Christmas movie that I fight on.
Mhm.
I watched it over Christmas holiday. I love the movie, and after the twist happened in Iron Man 3, I accepted it right away. Like, I hated it and I was mad, and then I got over it real freaking quick because ole 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 ole. Like, I love Ben Kingsley's character.
Yeah, I didn't mind the twist. I didn't like who the villain ended up being.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
So it's not the twist itself; it's who they replaced him with.
That makes sense. That's a good argument. So I personally, I really liked Ben Kingsley being in Shang-Chi, and I liked the little snippets he had, the little him being friends with that, what did they call it? The Duck Dog or
Morris.
Yes, Morris. Thank you. Yes, that was quite the surprise, and that the chemistry between them and everything like that, and the way that he was put in there, I think fit perfectly.
And it added a sense of humor that at that point that was that was needed. Like
Yeah.
I get that Aquafina was supposed to be the humor, but then like she kind of moved away from it, and it was getting really, really dark. And then Ben Kingsley comes in.
Yes.
And the rest of the movie, he's just kind of really him, and like Aquafina towards the end comes kind of back.
And I liked the part at the end where I really related to this, because this would be me if I was in battle. Shh, we're playing dead.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
It's a performance.
Yes,
exactly. I'm shocked they still haven't made action or like stuffed animals of Morris yet.
Right? That's very true.
Like I feel like that would be that would sell like that would be the next Baby Yoda. Like
yeah, exactly. You would think.
Yeah. And also for those, like, if anyone's wondering why Ben Kingsley was in there, they didn't watch the All Hail the King one shot short, because it sets up why he was there, because that like the real Mandarin found out about him, obviously kidnapped him, imprisoned him, and all that. But that being said, we can talk ages about Marvel MCU. But Jacob, what is your 5?
My number 5 is In the Heights.
Punt.
Yeah, that is also a punt. I feel like we have it.
Ooh.
I feel like you have it higher than me, though, Dylan.
I don't know, maybe.
And like I mean, we've already talked about my 5. My 5 was also Judas and the Black Messiah. So Jordan, what was your 4?
All right, coming to number 4. I punted it earlier. Dune. So we can finally talk about a little bit of Dune here. I had no connection to the original or the books or anything. I went in this just for the cast for Denis Villeneuve, who's kind of batting 100 right now, as far as I'm concerned, and continues to do so, man. I think it was already announced that they're coming in for a second one, so I wasn't bummed at all by the ending, and very much just happy going, all right, I'm ready for another trip down, this road. Great cast here. You have your little bit moments of levity with Jason Momoa, and even Javier Bardem has some funny laughs. A great cast all around. Oscar Isaac. I just thought super ridiculous. Great way to start things off. It really gets you prepped when this ready to revisit again. Hopefully sooner than later. So yeah, I really love Dune.
So, JD, were you the other one that had Dune?
So I really liked Dune a lot. Where I struggled is it's a first half.
Dune or Doolittle?
Sorry, Dune.
I heard you say Doolittle, so I just wanted to clarify that.
No, I said I meant Dune.
Imagine though. Imagine a hybrid crossover.
I don't know if I said Doolittle. I thought I said
did,
Dune, but I meant Dune. Where I struggled,
I think we know what you meant.
Where I struggled with it was, again, it's a first half of like 2 parts. So I felt like it just kind of ended. So that's where, and there are a lot of great movies. So like when it comes to this list, you're really like nitpicking, and it's like the difference between like my 6 and my 2 and my 3 are nitpicks, and it's like, and again, even below it, it's all nitpicks. So that's kind of where I ultimately struggle. But it's really good. It's a solid choice.
But Dylan, what did you think of Dune?
Yeah, Dune was my number 7, kind of for the same reason as JD said. Like, the nitpicking is what put it lower on my list, but again, like, it's in the top 7 for me. I think I did like the Green Knight better as like a hero's journey, but Dune is just as good of a hero's journey. The gargantuan size of the film is just what I love the most, but also the performances, they're so subtle, but they work somehow with this giant landscape. It almost makes the size of everything feel bigger because of how much more intimate it is than I expected. But then when it goes huge with its action and everything, it's really exciting. I didn't know the source material either, and I was hooked from the start. I wish I could have seen it again in theaters. I only got to see it once, but again, like it's one of my favorite theatrical experiences of the year. Just hearing the sound just boom through the auditorium. Hans Zimmer score is my favorite score of the year. Just the music and the way he kind of created his own instruments to match the feel of what an instrument would sound like in that desert area in the future. Like it just fits the tone so well of the piece, and it just blew me away. Yeah, it was really great.
Danny, have you seen Dune?
I have, actually. And it's in my honorable mention area, and the only reason why is because I watched it when I was kind of half asleep. Well, I watched it late at night, so I was half asleep. And so I want to go watch it again because I feel like after a second watch, I'll move from the like to love level. That's something that happens a lot with me with longer movies and this genre specifically. What I can say that I actually really enjoyed about the movie, number one, like just the story building or the world building in general. I didn't, same as you guys, I didn't know really much about the source material. I thought it was so beautiful. Like just the visuals, the sounds, everything about it. Like I was loving that part. I think just there was some other missing pieces, and also again me being tired. I need to go back and watch it, and I'm going to. Absolutely. I mean, one of the main reasons why I was so excited to see the movie to begin with was, I will not lie, Oscar Isaac. So there is a part in the movie that broke my heart just a little bit. But also Denis Villeneuve is just fantastic. But I want to go see it again. So it's on my honorable mention, but only because I need to rewatch it.
Jacob, have you seen Dune?
I've seen about half of it. I turned it on HBO Max, and apparently it was just too late for me to stay awake through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But the half I saw was amazing, and I can almost guarantee that once I see the whole thing, it'll be pretty high up on my list. Because I loved it. I think it's gonna do pretty well with like the technical awards come awards season. Yeah, I know. So I'm looking forward to finishing it and rewatching the half that I did see. So yeah. And if any of you guys are board game lovers, there's a game out there called Dune Imperium. Ooh. And it is fantastic. It's a fantastic game. The characters are like actual portrayals of the characters in the movie. So it's a lot of fun.
Okay,
so full disclosure, I for my holiday party, we spent 4 hours playing Doom in Emporium. It was the first time I played it. It was a lot of fun.
Well, that's longer than the movie.
Yeah.
That should only be on your first time, though. It's like an hour and a half game once you like really get to know the game. So
yeah, it was like there were four. It was like there was only one person who it was his game. So he was the game master, and everybody else had pretty much never played it. So that's why it took that long.
I mean, that was more of a joke than anything. But I mean, I've had games which typically take half an hour, somehow dragged out to 2 hours, and this is after people actually know how to play the game.
Yeah.
But that being said, Dune is fine. I like visually, it was a visual thing. Like Denis Villeneuve is really good at making a visual spectacle movie. I don't know whether this is one. Once again, I also wasn't very familiar with the source material, and I think this was one of those ones that it was part one was just all set up. So it's probably going to be like the Deathly Hallows in that, in which I enjoyed both movies as a whole, but half is going to be sort of not as much. But that being said, I'm still going to see part 2 when it comes out in 2 years, I think.
Let's just hope that theaters will be open by then.
I mean, if anything, just come to New Zealand. Theaters are open here. But,
or come to Florida. Florida, they've partied like it's the
Okay,
COVID
no
never happened.
offense, but if I have the chance to go to New Zealand, you think I'm just gonna go to Florida?
That is
Hey,
a
No,
fair-
no.
that is a fair-
Here
that
in
is a-
Florida, we took it very seriously for a solid week.
It might be, might be
No,
cheaper.
no. I've been to Florida. I have not been to New Zealand.
It's a fair statement. It's a fair statement. It is a fair statement.
But yeah, but I mean, I think like Dune's probably going to be nominated for a few Oscars. Like, I don't know if it deserves to be nominated for Best Picture, but it probably will. But technical stuff, it does deserve a lot of technical side of things. But that being said, Jordan, what is your number 4?
Dune was my 4.
I forgot where I went to. Dylan, what's your number 4?
This was a punt from earlier. It might be punted more. I put Pig at number 4.
It's also my number 4.
Cool. So we can talk about it now. I did not know what to expect from this movie. I thought it was going to be this like John Wick revenge, like Nicolas Cage, he stole my pig, and like go on this big hunt to find him. But it turns into this beautiful, poetic, like story about art and cooking and what it means to express yourself through things that you love and things that connect you not just to yourself and your own spirituality, but to other people, and how you can tell stories through food. It reminded me of if they had made the last like chunk of Ratatouille where Anton Ego is eating the ratatouille and has that flashback to his childhood, but made it the entire second act of this movie. It's beautiful. And as someone who loves food and also just loves film, it was amazing to see that hybrid and kind of come together. Nicolas Cage, amazing performance. It's a little bit more subtle than some of the bigger, flashier performances, even one that I'm sure we'll talk about when we get to another punted film. But it is a really great performance, and I hope he gets at least maybe like he won't get nominated probably because it's a small film, but I hope he gets nominated because he is great, and he has been great, and this really shows why he has been great and why he shouldn't just be taken as a joke in Hollywood, because I feel like some people just kind of like consider him a little bit of a joke, but this one really legitimizes his acting skills. It's a heartbreaking watch, but a very emotional one, and just one that makes you want to make whatever art you love to make, or even if it's not art, the jobs you love to do, the things you love to do, the hobbies you have, like it makes you think about those, and that's one of the powers of cinema and the power of this film in particular. So I love Pig.
Wow.
Love Pig.
That makes me want to watch it. Like,
It's
so
great.
So it was my number 8. It's a very very good movie. I argued on another show that it should be nominated for Best Picture, should be considered for Best Picture, and it's not going to be. I feel like at least Nicolas Cage is going to be considered for Best Actor. He's probably not going to get it, but at least people are really considering him for it. This is a film. I think the character study is a underrated kind of film, and I really loved how they show this parable for grief and it being a crutch. And I also love the pace of this movie. It's very much paced around the character of Rob. He's a man of few words, so things are revealed as he feels like he needs to reveal them. Like it's a very intentional movie, and there's just the scene where he's talking to like the hot chef, and he just like takes them down to size just by saying, "I remember when you worked in my kitchen, and I remember you wanted to work at a pub. You wanted to start a pub, and that puts him to a blubbering mess." It is one of the best. Again, I think it's a solid movie, and it's the reason I had it lower is because I think it's a very hard watch, and it's also it's a film I haven't gone back to as much. So that's really why. But it's great. It's a good pick.
Jacob, what are your thoughts on this very small movie named Pig?
Yeah, no, Pig is great. Nicolas Cage, he really does give a great performance here. He was nominated at the Critics' Choice Award for Best Actor, so he is getting recognized, and rightfully so, because he does put in a really good performance here. I really enjoyed Alex Wolff as well. I think the two of them played off each other pretty good. It's funny because Nicolas Cage is usually the one that's over the top, and I feel like Alex Wolff kind of was a little over the top, but I think it worked for the character he was portraying. That scene in the restaurant that JD mentioned, that's It's like one of my top 3 favorite scenes of the year. I just think it's a phenomenal scene. Yeah, like I'm gonna echo everything that Dylan said and everything that JD said. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it.
I'm probably going to now just because of hearing you guys talk about it.
Yay.
Like it is a hard watch, but like it's
But I
90.
love, like Dylan though, I love food and I love to cook. So that's
Ooh.
hearing that just kind of, I was like, oh, really?
Yeah, and I
Um,
was a little skeptical because people were talking about it like it's John Wick with a pig, and it kind of is in the fact that he wants to find his pig, but that's the only aspect. Like there's nothing John Wick about this. It's a 90-minute movie, but I could have spent like another hour with Nicolas Cage, and I would have been fine. Like it's great.
Yeah, give him a show on Food Network and let him talk about food for episodes and episodes. I'd watch it.
Just clean the
No,
blood off
I
of
want
him
to hear. I
finally.
want to hear about him talking about that. Did you see that article where he did the roundtable where he was talking about the horse he was riding?
Yeah,
For that movie that he's
Rain
that
Man, yeah.
yeah, Rain Man. That I want to hear an hour just about. I want a horsing show where he's just working with animals and like good animals, bad animals. Like I just him
Like
talking
Doolittle
about
or Dune Little.
yeah.
um,
Oh yeah, I would love to see him as Dr. Doodle. That would be a great choice.
Jordan, what did you think of Pig?
Yeah, it's in my top 10 too. I had it number 8 personally. This is probably the most recent watch of mine for my tops. Because again, and it is from word of mouth. Nicolas Cage, one of those actors. What was it? Willy's Wonderland was fun, but then like if you look at 2019, you got Kill Chain, Primal, Grand Isle, Running with the Devil, Score to Settle. Like he's not always necessarily someone you want to see everything from recently. So a lot of stuff falls by the wayside unless you hear word of mouth. And this thing has great word of mouth, and for a reason. There's a couple of scenes, like a wonderful meal, or just so filling. The scene where just sitting down talking to the other chef. I love even kind of the editing of it. Like for a while, it's just on the other chef, just kind of listening to him. And then it goes back to Cage. There's just a couple of just tremendous moments in this movie, and yeah, there's a reason why it's being talked about. So yeah, got to give it up for Pig as well.
Yeah, I still haven't got around to seeing this. Like I was going to get a ticket to look about around the time it officially came out here, but then New Zealand went to a short lockdown, so Peter's close.
Yeah.
So
I will say
that
he's
was-
probably not one of the 5 that are going to get nominated for Best Actor, but he deserves to be number 6.
Yeah, he should.
I mean, I think it's one of those ones that there's always like I wouldn't be surprised if there's like he sneaks in there, because it could like I think if a lot of critics groups keep hyping him up, like a lot of Oscars might go back and watch it and see it.
Mhm.
And I think if he gets into the SAG, then things change. So,
Yeah, could happen.
but that being said, JD, what is your number 4?
I based on what Dylan's pick was, I'm going to hear Punt, Into the Heights.
Do we punt it if it's any higher, or it's my number 3? It's my next one.
I mean, it's still going to be a punt for me.
So
Anyways.
yes, punt.
Danny, what is your number 4?
My number 4 is Tick Tick Boom.
Punt.
Ooh.
We just talked about my
Jacob.
number 4. We just talked about my number 4 with Pig.
My number 4 was Encanto.
Nice.
Oh wow.
I mean, this was. I mean, when I saw the trailers for this is one of those movies which is like, I'll watch it. It looks fine. It's Lin-Manuel Miranda. It can't be bad. It wasn't bad. I really enjoyed this. And it was, like especially the voice talents of Stephanie Beatrice and a whole lot of like Latino actresses in here. This is just one of those movies which is just so enjoyable from start to finish. We do need to talk about Bruno, but and I just can't get that out of my head. but yeah, I can't remember who else actually had it.
JD.
JD, what did you think about Encanto?
So it was my number. I want to say it was my number 6. So it was very. It really comes down to nitpicks, right? When you get to the top half of the list, it really is nitpicks, and I felt that it really I felt like it wrapped up a little too neatly, and I felt like I didn't like that it implied that they got their powers back. I don't know if I necessarily liked that. I liked that they kind of like the last how they were like learning to live without their powers, and then they're like gonna immediately give them back to them. That kind of, but again, it's nitpicks. Like if I felt like it was wrapped up too neatly, if I felt like the reconciliation between Maribel and the grandmother was a bit again neat, and again I felt like I didn't like the ending so much. The music and the performances and so much about expectations, and unrealistic expectations, and how that collapses you because you can never meet them. There's so much, and Bruno again, similarly with the expectations. There's so much that I love about this movie that it was like it's like swipe knocks. It's not really like it's nitpicks.
Yeah, and also fun fact that I meant to mention before, the singing voice for Mirabel's grandmother in this is the grandmother from In the Heights.
Yeah.
So
Olga Merritt.
Oh wow,
yes,
that's
yeah.
cool.
I believe she
So-
voiced. I believe she did the regular voice too.
No, the regular voice was Maria Cecilia Botero.
Okay.
Olga Meredith is the singing voice.
Okay, that makes sense.
Um,
I
but
knew at least one of them sounded like Into
Yeah.
the Heights.
but did anyone else have it in their top 12?
I didn't have it on my top. I did put it on my honorable mentions, but the only reason why I didn't put it even in my top 12 or switch it around because I need to go back and rewatch it. I only got to watch about half of it, and it wasn't because I wasn't interested in the movie. It was because I put it on at work. So one of my clients was into the movie and they were really enjoying it, and I was enjoying it too. But I was working, so I wasn't able to actually sit and focus on watching the movie. But from what I did watch, I was enjoying it. The music was really, really lovely. I don't know if anyone mentioned it, but I did kind of get a lot of Moana vibes just from the music itself. There was that one song, I think by the Strong Woman,
Mm-hmm.
and I just for some reason it just sounded like it came right out of Moana. I don't know why. To me, it did. Maybe I'm just crazy, but it did. And
It's
Lin-Manuel
Miranda,
Miranda,
so like
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
did all the music for this, so that is probably why you kind of feel that way.
yeah, exactly. So so I'm gonna go back and rewatch it because I am hearing lots of good things, and obviously you guys are saying good things. So it's another one that I have to go back and give it a little rewatch.
Jacob, what are your thoughts on Encanto?
It was this close to overtaking the Suicide Squad for me.
What?
I enjoyed it. I thought the music was great. I'm a sucker for musicals though. I
Yeah.
really enjoy musicals. It was kind of like I read this comparison online. I don't know who said it, but I was like, yeah, and I love both those movies. It's like kind of Coco meets Frozen.
Yes.
And I
I
was
can
like,
see
yeah,
that.
and I enjoyed both those movies. I thought, yeah, the music was fantastic. I like that there wasn't really a human villain in the movie too.
Mhm.
I thought maybe the grandmother might be, but it turned out that she was just kind of mean sometimes. So I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I don't really have anything bad to say about the movie. It's beautiful animation, great voice cast, great music, and just an enjoyable story. But just this, I enjoyed the Suicide Squad just this much more. So
Dylan, what are your thoughts on Encanto?
Yeah, it was very close to making my list as well. I know a lot of you guys had Mitchell's on your list, but this was actually my favorite animated movie of the year. I just love the music. I think the first time, honestly, I watched it, I didn't love the music. It didn't stick with me, but then on rewatch, I actually really caught myself like tapping along to the songs and singing them afterwards. So that's the power of Disney. They do that. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I also enjoy it as like this kind of metaphor for not, I almost said like homosexuality, but like the idea of being different and having your family not accept you. And it reminded me of that scene in X-Men 2, X2, where the kid with the ice powers is sitting down with his family and they're basically like disowning him because of it. And it's kind of I think it's important for younger audiences to see that if they are different, if their families don't embrace them at first, especially families with older people who are more traditional, who have not necessarily caught up to the times, I think it's really important to see a movie like this that doesn't address it overtly, that it's like this metaphor for homosexuality or being different or something like that, but there are parallels you can draw from that, and the idea of someone not accepting you but then learning to accept you because you are special in your own way. And it's a very blatant message, but I think with Disney movies, the thing about Disney movies is that they can tell these very obvious messages in innovative ways, and this was a very innovative way in doing so. Honestly, Mitchell's kind of dives into a similar theme of parent not accepting their kid at first and what their passions are, but that's more of a career focused one. This is more of just like who she was born as, which I think is even more impactful, because it's like she has no choice. She doesn't have a choice to have powers or not. She just doesn't. And I think there's something very powerful in that, and the messaging and redeeming that relationship at the end and not making it this straightforward villain. It's not a villain. It's just a misunderstood relative that you're eventually able to kind of reconnect with through that. So really powerful little Disney movie that's only grown with time. And if I watch it a third time, it might end up on this list. But yeah, it was just outside the list. But yeah.
Jordan, what do you think of Encanto?
I haven't seen it.
I believe he said he hadn't seen it, but Jordan, what is your number 3?
Suicide Squad.
I think this is where we talk about it.
I'm gonna punt it, but I think I'm the only one that's punting it, so go for it.
But
Oh, I mean, if it's been punted, if it's been punted, then we can talk. We'll still talk about it later.
Yes, exactly.
Dylan, what was your number 3?
My number 3, I think Malcolm, you're gonna punt it. In the Heights.
Punt.
Yep, there you go.
JD, what is your number 3?
So I have a feeling no one has this on this list, but it made mine. The French Dispatch. Yeah, I'm a sucker for anthology movies, full disclosure, and I didn't know I needed a Wes Anderson anthology movie until I saw this movie. But from moment one, for a long time, this was my number 1. But then there were a couple late entries later in the year that kind of made it, that kind of took it at the end. But from moment one, when they're like you're seeing like the like their little French newspaper factory, and it's like several, and there's like a cafe below, and I'm like, okay, this is totally my speed. I think the travel monologue, this travel prologue with Owen Wilson sets up the kind of color palettes that you're going to see from the rest of the movie perfectly, while also kind of setting up this overall theme between the different shorts, being outsiders trying to find their place in the world because they don't think they can find it at home. They don't think they can be who they want to be at home. And they ultimately, whether it's, Benicio del Toro, getting PTSD and just raging out and then finding his artistic, his passion with painting, or Timothée Chalamet, and Timothée Chalamet raging against the norms of the kind of society that's being set up by their parents, or even Jeffrey Wright, who as kind of like Robin Wright, who's playing like a take on James Baldwin. He flashbacks to him being arrested, and again he in France arrested. I just there's so much that I really love about this movie. It just hit me in all the right ways, and I wish Jeffrey Wright was actually getting more world awards consideration because I think he's brilliant.
So Danny, what have you seen French Dispatch?
No, and I might not now. Oh my goodness. I might just be tired, but wow. But the cast sounds great. Who else? So from what I heard, there's Benicio del Toro, and
Oh,
then
it's star studded. Like Francis McDormand's in it, Benicio del Toro,
right, Timothy
Timothy
Chalamet, you said, and
Chalamet,
Owen Wilson. Did I hear that right?
Owen
Yeah, I
Wilson,
mean a lot of the usual Wes Anderson crew
yeah,
are here.
Edward Norton.
Bill
Oh,
Murray.
really?
Uh,
See, I do have it like on my watch list. But the other day it was between Belfast or French Dispatch, and I chose Belfast.
it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but it definitely was mine.
I don't know if it's a movie that I don't think it would have ever made a top 10 or 12 of mine just based on hearing about the movie in general. But I mean I will give it a watch, just usually based on cast and whatnot. And who did who did you say directed this one? That was
Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson, that's right. Yeah. So I'll give it a watch, but I haven't watched it yet.
Jacob, what have you seen?
I have not. I bought it the other day. I just haven't been able to pop it in yet.
Dylan, have you seen
Yeah.
French Dispatch?
I have, and I really enjoyed it. It is my favorite production design of the year. I think just the intricate detail that Wes Anderson puts into his films, it's like every film he makes is just getting better and better in terms of how they look. I like the idea of having an anthology, all these different stories tied together as like this big newspaper, as if you're reading the newspaper itself. Yeah, JD hit on a lot of the big points, though. It's a good movie. Yeah.
Jordan, have you seen French Dispatch?
I'm like Jacob. I have it. I bought it as a Christmas present with some gift cards, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. I have not unfortunately gotten to it yet, though. I do look forward to it, though. I think his last couple live action films have been really great. So yeah.
Yeah. This is one of my I saw this when it came out. And this is probably one of my biggest surprises of the year because I didn't know what to think from the trailers. And I definitely enjoyed this. Like, this was about my number 33, but once again, it was just one of those ones where I had a bevy of riches when it come to movies. So, like, there's a lot of good movies I really enjoyed that just either missed the cut or just got knocked out because of some late minute ones I caught up on in the past few weeks when I've been off. But yeah, Jenny, what was your number 3?
Oh, my number 3. I'm excited. I get to talk about this movie now. Cruella is my number 3. I adore this movie. I adore Emma Stone. She's one of my favorite actresses working today. I don't think I've seen her in something that I didn't like. And I remember when I heard about the movie coming out, and there was concept art with Emma in it. And I thought to myself, this is some stupid fan made shit. I'm not even going to pay attention to it. And then all of a sudden, I heard some credible sources and I'm hearing more news about it. And I was like, yes, please don't make the Maleficent errors because I love Angelina Jolie, but they weren't my favorite takes on what happened. And so I was so excited for Cruella. And then, of course, it did go straight to Disney Plus, didn't it? If I remember
No, it was a
correctly.
hybrid release.
Okay, so I obviously like theaters were closed in my area, so I waited to see it. And I didn't even pay for it right away because even though I was so excited for it, I kept hearing bad reviews and I kept hearing people being really iffy about it, and which is fine, movie is subjective, that's cool. Then when I finally watched it, I have watched that movie probably it's one of my most watched of the year. I will turn it on at work very often because hello, the soundtrack itself Holy shit, it's fire. I think it is. I love it. It hits every single beat, every single part of the stories. The songs fit with it, the stylistics of everything, the fashion. Not that I'm a big fashion person, but in the movies it's different. You know, you become a fashionista of movies. So, and of course, so you have Emma Stone and playing off of Emma Thompson. Yes, Emma
Yep.
Thompson, who I also love, and I thought that every little twist that happened in the movie too. I was kind of thinking along those lines that that's something that could possibly happen, but I liked Emma Stone's take on Cruella. I liked what they did with the story. I liked the fact that it played kind of in her beginnings, her birth, and I think someone had mentioned it before too, how they kind of leave it open for a sequel. And I hope that they do something in the future with this movie, where you talk about, the darling couple, and everything else, and it continues on. I love Cruella. It is my
So
number 3. And who knows? I mean, I probably could have swapped Cruella and Tick Tick Boom because I did only just watch Tick Tick Boom a couple of days ago. So I could have switched those two back and forth, and I'd be happy with it.
So Jacob, what did you think of Cruella?
I've not seen it yet.
Go watch it
Um,
now. Leave. Just leave here and go watch.
Jordan, what are your thoughts on Cruella?
I did like it. It took me a minute to warm up to it. I didn't
Mhm.
love it when I first saw it, but it does have its own style. I enjoyed the cast. I enjoyed kind of her story arc. Even her two pals. One of them, Paul Walter Hauser, I think is having a lot of fun in his role. And so yeah, it's a
Yes.
good one. And it does. We're always saying all these remakes do the same. This does something different, and it has its own kind of unique vibe. So it is worth watching.
I mean, I'd go as far as say this isn't a remake; it's a prequel. But that being said, Dylan, what are your thoughts on Cruella?
Yeah, I think it's a very fun like summer movie, and it fit that vibe very well. I do think the idea of like kind of making a person who kills puppies kind of the rooting interest was a little difficult for me to like get on board with, but like I do understand what the film was trying to do, and I like the way stylistically it was told. The costumes, I hope they win the Oscar. I don't even hope they nominated. I hope they win the Oscar because those costumes are freaking incredible, especially after seeing House of Gucci, whatever the hell that was. I appreciate this movie even more. I mean, if you guys have House of Gucci higher, I'm sorry, but
Gucci's coming up.
but yeah, no, I could not stand that movie, but this movie it made me appreciate this movie more because it was so vibrant and colorful, and the costumes are just amazing. Yes.
I just want to add on to the costumes. Yes, that was another thing. I have that written down too on another sheet where I kind of scribbled all everything on. I watched usually when there's a movie that comes out, I do watch a lot of like the interviews and like the press junkets for them on YouTube and stuff. So I watched a lot of the interviews afterwards, and they were talking a lot about like the costume design and stuff like that. And I thought it was really really interesting hearing Emma talk about all the different like especially the really large pieces like her garbage truck dress, and hearing her talk about that one in specific where they had to literally attach the back end to her after she was already on the truck. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't think I could carry that, and you're tiny. So it's like it was really really cool. So I'm glad that you mentioned the costume design because I agree it was uh, oh so good, so good.
And JD, what do you think of Cruella?
it's in my honorable mentions. It for most of the year it was actually in my top 12. It
Mhm.
as it got towards the end, it just missed it. Like
Yeah.
I think it's a little long, but that being said, I think Emma Stone is great as Cruella. I think she plays like both sides, like Estella and Cruella, really well. And being like this take on bipolar, I thought was really interesting. And mental health, I thought was really interesting. Craig Gillespie directed this movie, who did I Tanya. So he's like 2 for 2 for me. I've seen those are the 2 movies I've seen, and I like them both really a lot. I'm really looking forward to the sequel that's in development that I think is going to be how did Cruella end up with almost 80 Dalmatians in her in her attic? I think that's what the sequel is going to be about. That's where they're going to leave it because like supposedly it's like 5 years before like, or 5 to 10 years before.
Before
Yeah.
what? Sorry.
The post-credit scene is like 5 to 10 years before the movie. So I think it's going to be about leading up to 101 Dalmatians, the sequel.
Oh, okay.
But that being said, Jacob, what is your number 3?
My number 3, I expected to like this movie. I did not expect to love this movie, and sometimes I just want to have a fun time watching a movie, and I had the most fun this year with Free Guy. I loved this movie. I didn't expect to love it this much that it's number 3 on my list. Granted, I probably didn't see as many 2021 movies as a lot of people, but still, it's number 3. I really enjoyed Ryan Reynolds in this. I think Ryan Reynolds has gotten to the point where people are like, oh, it's Deadpool as this character. And I thought like this was the character that had the most potential to be that. It's like, oh, it's just Deadpool as a banker. And I didn't get that vibe at all. Like
I didn't.
That was really surprising because like Detective Pikachu was like, oh, if Deadpool voiced Pikachu. And so this movie kind of went away from that, which was surprising. I thought we were going to spend a lot more time in the video game world than we did, which I really enjoyed. We spent a lot more time in the real world, and I thought the relationship between Jodie Comer and Joe Keery was excellent. I really enjoyed those two. And yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to, if they have anything more with this world, which they can if they choose to go that way. I thought it was great. It was a lot of fun. The final fight between Ryan Reynolds and Ryan Reynolds. I thought that was a lot of fun. And yeah, no, it's not the greatest movie, but I didn't have more fun with any movie this year than I did with Free Guy. And so, will it fall down the list the more I rewatch it? Maybe. But as of right now, it's number 3, and I don't really care what other people say about it. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, Free Guy's been sitting in my top 12 for most of the year until it was knocked out very recently. And yeah, it is a fun movie, and I know Disney. I think Ryan Reynolds has come out and said that Disney's open to doing a sequel, but there's nothing actually officially confirmed. No matter what comicbook.com might want to try and spout out with their nonsense. But yeah, I mean, Free Guy was a lot of fun. Like, this is one I had no idea what I was going to expect. Because I expected a fun Grand Theft Auto's parody game movie. And that's pretty much what we got, but a little bit more. And I mean, like, just having Chris Evans like randomly pop up and just was something that I was not expecting as well. And it took me a long time to realize that some of the famous voices there was there as well. Was like, it wasn't until afterwards I was looking at the credits like, where the hell's Hugh Jackman? Where the hell's The Rock? It just was like I was like, but Jordan, what was your thoughts on Free Guy?
No, I was gonna say before Jacob, he was saying, doesn't care if he has it so high. I have it higher. I actually have it in my number 2, man. I just went with my heart.
Wow.
I really laughed.
You should have said something then.
I was waiting for this. I thought we were gonna have a nice moment now. Jeez, Jacob.
That's why we punt things, Jordan. You ruined the whole
It was
show.
one off. I was gonna punt because I knew I was gonna probably talk about it now anyway. So yeah, I loved it. I love the premise. I mean, I can kind of see what people are saying with Ryan Reynolds as far as being kind of the same character, but when it works, it just works. You needed someone that likable, that charming, and he does have gravitas. He knows when to turn it on for the gravitas. towards the end and a little more, slightly more dramatic moments. But it's so much fun. The world they built, it's got a nice little eclectic cast around it too. From Utkarsh to Joe to Aika, of course. So like it's just a really fun movie, man. It takes a little bit of ideas from other stuff that we've seen before, but it puts it in one nice little ball. It was such a fun. It's an easy rewatchable movie too. If you own it, it's great to just watch again. Every little bit. I'm not a huge rewatcher. That's one that I do find that I can go back to very easily. So yeah, I have it pretty high too.
Dylan, what are your thoughts on Free Guy?
I like this movie. Again, like Cruella, this was just great cinematic summer fun. Like, this is the movie you want to grab your friends and go to the movies and eat some popcorn and watch a movie on the big screen in the summertime. It just fits that vibe very well. I like Ryan Reynolds. I am, I was in the pool of like, it's a little bit of the similar type of performance he gives before, but it's not as, I don't know the right word for it, but it's not as dark, I guess, as Deadpool, even though Deadpool's not dark, but it's a little lighter, and it's a little more optimistic, I guess. I really like the character, but Jodie Comer is the part that really just steals the movie for me. I love her. I loved her in Last Duel. That was one of my honorable mentions. She's just an actress I hope gets more appreciation as the years go on, especially in film. I know she's gotten it for television, but she's really great in that moment with her and Joe Keery at the end when they finally, have that, very Hollywood-like embrace at the end. That is just a magical movie moment. So really, really fun movie. Yeah.
JD, what are your thoughts on Free Guy?
Well, I think, look, Ryan Reynolds is good at playing Ryan Reynolds. He's playing, like, there are certain actors that they play a type, and they're very good at the type, and I can take it all day. So that people take that as a criticism, I don't. Like, I think he tried being like the serious actor. It didn't work. I think he realized that people like this, like, as long as you do it in the correct amount of dosage, it works. So but I agree. Jodie Comer, between this and The Last Duel, like this year, Jodie Comer, I think, had a great year, and I wish she was getting more Oscar consideration for this year, because I think she's really great, and I wish she was getting more film. She was going to be in the Ridley Scott Napoleon movie before she had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts. I would have really liked to see her like opposite Joaquin Phoenix's Napoleon. But alas.
And Danny, what do you think of Free Guy?
Sure, it happened. I need to rewatch it. Again, I watched this at work, and I think it's that time of the year. Like, I don't know for any of you guys, but I know for me and where I am, I've been really drained the last week, and so I was just so tired, and for some reason, even when I was at work, I just could not sit and watch the movie. So I missed the in between. So I watched the first half, and then whatever happened before Ryan versus Ryan, I missed. So I need to go back and watch. So like I really, really enjoyed the parts that I watched. I thought it was really, really great. I don't necessarily see where people are coming from when they're making the comparison of, oh, it's him doing Deadpool. You know what I think that it is? It's his voice.
Yeah.
His voice is so distinctive, where if he is in a role where he's playful, that's just his voice. You can't, what's he supposed to do? Like, I really liked him in this role. I liked the world itself. I liked the different takes on a video game, and then also, being in reality. I think it was good. I need to go, like I said, I need to go rewatch it. Thank goodness it's on Disney Plus, so I don't got to worry about anything else about that. But yeah, so no complaints about the movie. There was nothing I didn't like. Just need to rewatch.
Yeah. And I kind of want to see a movie done in the same style of the upcoming Nick Cage one this year, the Unbearable Likeness of Being, with Ryan Reynolds encountering something similar. But anyway, I expect I'm not talking about my number 3 at this point. My number 3 is Spider-Man No Way Home.
Punt.
Which one?
Spider-Man No Way Home.
Okay, sure.
That's a definite punt.
Jordan,
yeah,
what
it's
is
half
your
a
number?
punt.
Jordan, I think you've already talked about your number 2, but what remind everyone what it was.
My number 3 was Punted for Tuesday.
Your 2. Yeah.
Well, 2 is Free Guy.
As I said, you've already talked about it. I'm just getting confirmation. Dylan, what is your number 2?
This is a movie that hasn't been talked about, and I don't know if it's going to be on everyone's list. I love musicals. Obviously, a lot of musical stuff behind me. This was, I consider, the year of the musical. I have a lot of musicals on my list, and this is one that hasn't been talked about. I have West Side Story at number 2.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the original. I know the original film
Yeah.
has a lot of glaring issues. Obviously, just the time it was made, it has casting problems with some of the actors they cast. The I don't love the idea of lip syncing in movies, but I really like this newer, fresher take on this story. Steven Spielberg, one of my favorite, probably my favorite director of all time, and you can tell he's just been waiting his whole life to make a musical because it's all just so gorgeous and beautiful, and he just really takes the story and makes it his own. Every number feels unique. It doesn't feel like it's rehashing something we've already seen from the stage version or the other film. And I love the cast. I think, obviously Ansel Elgort, not my personal favorite choice as Tony, but I think everyone around him is so good that it kind of makes me forget that he's probably the weakest of the group. And that's only because the rest of the cast, they are Broadway actors. They are experienced. They have that training and they sound just amazing in these roles. Mike Weiss, he's a newcomer to the screen. He's great. David Alvarez, amazing. Rachel Zegler as the lead, as Maria, is just one of my favorite star turn performances of the year. In her debut, I love how she came out with this one role and just blew everyone away. And then Ariana DeBose as Anita, literally my favorite performance, one of my favorite performances of the year, will most likely get the supporting actress Oscar. And then Rita Moreno returning to the film that made her famous, that she won an Oscar for in the 60s, coming back and playing an older role and getting that one song in the second half that just brought me to tears. It is one of my favorite stories, going back to when I read Romeo and Juliet in high school and then seeing the show as an interpretation of Romeo and Juliet, and then watching it just come to life again with Spielberg. It is one of the most beautiful things I've seen all year. I wasn't sure if it was just my love for the songs and the movie and the musical that was the reason I liked it. So I went back and watched it again, and I liked it more the second time when I could kind of just get past comparing it to other versions I've seen and just enjoying it for what it was. And I just think it is my favorite musical of the year in a year of so many good musicals. So yeah, West Side Story, if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it. It didn't do well at the box office, and it's a shame because obviously there are things going on in the world that prevent that. But I wish this had more eyes, like Tick Tick Boom, like In the Heights. In the Heights didn't even have that many eyes either. So I just hope musicals in general just get more eyes because they're such beautiful pieces of art. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I hope more people come around to it, especially because I think it's going to win supporting actress and maybe a few more Oscars as well. So
I really want to see West Side Story really badly, but again,
right.
I really wanted to see it in theaters, and right after seeing No Way Home, that was my next theater experience. And actually, no, I'm lying. I wanted to see Gucci in theaters, and then I chose to see No Way Home a second time, which that's fine. And then after that, I wanted to go see West Side Story, but of course, I cannot now, and I really do not want to have to sit there and wait to either have to watch it on streaming or go to other lengths to watch it, because I really do want to go see it on the big screen. I mean, if I was able to, I would love to go see it in IMAX even, because I'm sure it's just captivating and beautiful. So I hope I get to see it in theaters. If not, I mean, it's definitely going to be high up there, high priority on my watch list for sure.
Who else hasn't seen it?
Oh, who hasn't seen it? Oh.
So JD, I think you're the only other one that's seen it. What did you think about West Side Story?
Okay. I like Dylan, I am a huge musical lover. Maybe not as big as Dylan, but still pretty decent musical lover. My biggest, one of there are three kind of issues that I kind of have with it. Number one, I felt that you kind of hit one of them, which was Ansel Elgort, because everybody Anita and Rachel Zegler is is Maria. They were all, and Mike Phelps is like Raph. They were all 5s, and he was like a 3. He distracted me like for a good chunk of the movie. And I also don't think I think Rachel Ziegler was great by herself, I didn't necessarily buy the chemistry between Tony and Maria. And then the last kind of issue, which he said it was a positive, was kind of distracting for me, was Rita Morano coming back as like the Doc character.
Oh,
Like
interesting. Okay.
to me, like I appreciate that she had a big role behind the scenes, improving the depictions. I think that was one of the positives of this movie, and I agree that Spielberg made like relying on her for the Latino depictions in this movie was a smart move. But then also giving her a role, I think she was just kind of there. And while I thought she still can sing like no other, like I did find it a bit distracting
Okay.
for the rest of the movie. So those are my big 3 problems with it. But I agree, I did enjoy it for the most part. But again, when it comes to this list, we're talking.
Yeah. And there's so many good musicals this year, and we're gonna get to 2 more very soon. So I'm very happy to talk about those as well. But I do recommend it. It's a good film.
Yeah. And I wanted to see West Side Story, but due to various circumstances, I didn't get a chance. I was going to see it this week. But yeah. JD, what is your number 2?
I feel like we're going to get a pun again. So No Way Home was my number 2.
It's a punt.
Danny, what is your number 2?
So, yeah, I have a question. I couldn't decide between my number 1 and my number 2. So, just for the purpose of the fact that clearly everyone is punting for Spider-Man, I will talk about what I put down as my number 1 and just call it my number 2.
I mean, it's up to you if that's what you want to do.
It's just easier because, yeah. So my number 2 is the Suicide Squad, which me and my fiance went out east this summer, and we actually went and saw this movie in a drive-in theater.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was his first drive-in theater experience, and it was in a little French town. Thankfully, it was in English too, so that was great. But the experience as a whole was so great. I mean, we weren't too sure what to expect, but of course, me being a big fan of James Gunn and everything like that, and seeing the trailers, I was so freaking stoked to see this movie. And I've rewatched it a few times since, and I just rewatched it I think last week, and I hadn't watched it for a while. And I go back and I watch it, and I am just busting a gut from like the moment it starts. I am laughing, and there was a couple of parts where I was almost in tears again, laughing. Like I thoroughly enjoyed this movie overall, like just everything about it, all the moving parts, the story. There was obviously a couple of things where, I mean, I guess you can kind of give it up to James Gunn for it, just kind of killing off certain characters. I'm like, oh, you like this guy? Bye, see ya. Yeah. Out. See you later. My only, I guess, complaint for the movie probably would have been the whole Deadshot and what's his face's character, Idris Elba. His character. Bloodsport. Thank you. Yes, Bloodsport. So their character kind of swap or whatever. But you know what? Even going back to it another time, last week, I was thinking, you know what, man, his character is so freaking cool. Like he just creates weapons and everything. Like it's just freaking cool. I thought that was fantastic. And I think the more I watch it, the more I love it, and the more I've never really been a big fan of John Cena. I'm not a wrestling kind of gal, and I also don't understand what men or women see in him and everything like that. I'm just like, okay, so he's there. But the more I watch the movie, the more I find him really freaking funny. So, yeah, so that's my number 2. That's really all I have to say about this. It's awesome.
Wait, John Cena's in the Suicide Squad? I just couldn't see him. But
God, Mike. Oh man.
Someone had to do it. Jacob, what did you think about the Suicide Squad?
I really liked it. I had it at number 12. So bottom of my list, but I'm still pretty high on the movie. I enjoyed Idris Elba. I enjoyed everyone in the movie. That opening scene though, like that was very surprising. On the beach. I did not expect that going into the movie. I did not expect him to kill off so many people. I was like, oh, I'm looking forward to Pete Davidson and Nathan Fillion. I'm excited to see what they do. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess we don't get to see what they do. But
yeah,
okay.
That's what I mean.
And it's like, I want to be disappointed, but at the same time, I'm not. Because going further into the movie, I feel like the characters we did get to know, I really enjoyed getting to know them. And I feel like had we had too many, it could have like bogged down the movie a little bit. I do enjoy John Cena. He's not the greatest actor, but when he's given a good comedic role, he delivers. And he delivers in this movie 100%. I'm looking forward to the series coming out soon.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. It's gonna be exciting to see what he does with it.
I mean, leave it to
the series comes out in 2 days, I believe.
Yeah,
what?
it's really soon.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's really soon.
Where's it premiering on? Sorry to cut you off.
HBO Max.
HBO Max.
Damn you, Americans.
Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, no. It's not one that I've revisited since the first time I watched it, but it's still one that's stuck with me. I really enjoy. I thought they were gonna kill Harley Quinn. I really thought James Gunn was gonna go there.
Uproar.
Yeah, but I feel like James Gunn could have got away with it. Like he's delivered on every single one of his movies so far. I feel like he could have got away with it. Sure, there might have been some backlash, and I'm glad he didn't. But I really thought they were going to go there. This movie kept me guessing. And then, I never thought I would enjoy a starfish as a villain, as a bad guy, and I did. Like, there's just so much great things about this movie, and I'm sure maybe if I had rewatched it, it would be higher. But I did only see it the one time, so it is at number 12. But it could go higher up as I rewatch it.
For me, so the Suicide Squad was number 6. And once again, I've only seen it the one time too, so it could change if I've got it on DVD now, so I'm probably going to give it a rewatch at some stage. When that is, I don't know. But yeah, this is one I don't know what to expect because I'm one of the oddballs that didn't hate the 2016 Suicide Squad movie.
I also didn't hate it.
I'm a defender of the 2016.
Was it a bit of a hot mess? Yes, but I loved it. Like
Ayer's cut. I'm fully for the Ayer's cut.
4 hours.
I don't think I don't think we need it, but anyway, the Suicide Squad, which is going to be a lot of fun in trivia leagues, for sure. This is just one of those movies which is a lot of fun, and like from the get-go, James Gunn showed that like, you think we've got too many characters in here? Now you're fine with the number of characters.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right?
And I mean, it was one of those ones like, I knew just from when they announced some of those characters, like some of them were not going to survive much in that movie. That they were just there to be expendable. They were just the Slipknot and the Suicide Squad. But it was a lot of fun. Jordan, what do you think of the Suicide Squad?
No, I loved it as well. It's my number 3. It's so much fun. The James Gunn kind of leaves you on your toes, not wondering, where you're gonna go with these characters. All the ones you see very briefly at the beginning. The sense of humor, the John Cena arc making us want more. We're gonna get the Peacemaker show. I'm super excited for. And yeah, this thing is it's a lot of fun. I knew, if you know James Gunn's earlier work, he can do a great R-rated movie. So that's kind of what I went into thinking. Like, this is Guardians, but R-rated. You know what I mean? With a different cast of crazy characters, and he can really go balls to the wall with. And lot of fun. Another one that's, I think, a good rewatch. So yeah, check it out again when you can.
Imagine if it gets revealed that Disney announces that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is going to be R-rated.
Oh, boy.
Doesn't even need to be.
I don't think it needs to be, but imagine what James Gunn will go if that's what happens.
Oh yes, that's right. Sorry, I wasn't making the connection there for a second. I completely forgot that he's on board for number 3 too. Duh.
Yeah. But Dylan, what do you think of the Suicide Squad?
I really liked it. 10,000 times, in my opinion, better than the first one. Obviously, that has the Defenders. My mom is one of them who still likes the first one better. I think because she also has like a fear of starfish and like anything with like suction cups. Anything with like
Aw.
suction cups, like octopus too. Like she doesn't like that. And I made her watch that documentary that won the Oscar about the octopus. So that was fun.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, no, it's a great movie. It was like number 16 on my list. Like it was close to making that top 12. Yeah, it's just so many movies came out this year, and it was very, very good. Sylvester Stallone as King Shark is my favorite movie character of the year, though, and I loved everything about him. And I hope we get a spinoff of him as well. So,
JD, what do you think of the Suicide Squad?
I mean, yeah, I super enjoyed this movie a lot. Ratcatcher 2 and Bloodsport is like my favorite, one of my favorite relationships this year. And John Cena I don't think he's the greatest, like, when they were trying to push him as an action star, I didn't really buy it, but like as a comedic star, like every comedic film that he's done, I like, whether it's Trainwreck or like what was the other one? God, I'm drawing a blank right now. Where they were the parents that were trying to Blockers,
yeah.
Blockers, like Blockers, and now this. Like, I think he has great comedic. He has great comedic, and I fully support John Cena as a comedic star. My biggest issue with the movie, which is actually Harley Quinn. He said that like he had permission to kill whoever he wanted and use whoever he wanted. I don't buy that. There's no way that DC said, "Hey, you can kill Harley Quinn, our biggest cash cow, Margot Robbie, our biggest star." No way that's going to happen. There's no. He said that was great political, like PR speak, but there's no way that they told him. So I felt like they didn't know what to do with her at times. So that was my biggest problem with it. But other than that, it's a really movie.
I mean, it's one of those ones I do buy that they probably said he could kill off whoever he wants. He probably didn't see the need to kill off Harley Quinn. Because I mean, and let's face it, if he kills off the one of the only female characters in the movie, it's going to be Bruce. But that being said, one thing I meant to bring up, but didn't. Taika Waititi's been the chameleon popping up so many times. Like he was in the Suicide Squad. He was the original Ratcatcher, which was something I didn't expect to sort of thing. There's like even I didn't catch it at first until the credits. Like, hang on, and then like he was the villain in Free Guy. Then he also appeared in the Electrical Life of Louis Wain, which was actually a pretty good movie. But that being said, Jacob, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is Coda.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed this movie. It's probably the biggest surprise for me that I have it this high. It's a great movie about a high school girl who, you know, she's going through a struggle. Does she stay with her family, or does she who's deaf? Code is a child of deaf adults. And she's going through that struggle. Does she go to college to pursue something she loves, or does she stay home and help her family? And I think it's a really great journey, and we see her struggle, just trying to live her life. The performances in this are great. The music is great. I really enjoyed Troy Kotzer. I think he gives a great supporting performance. I really enjoyed that the emotion that they were able to show, even though they were signing, and like you could see the emotion, you could really feel it. Um, I thought they do a choir performance, and I thought it was great that they decided to show it through the perspective of the parents, because
Oh,
they can't hear it, but they're there to support
yeah.
their daughter. They're good parents. Um, but they just and so I thought it was really well done, and they're looking around, and you just see everyone enjoying this performance, and I think that's kind of where it clicks for the parents, like, oh, this is something she could do. And yeah, it's just a great coming of age story. There's some good comedic moments in it. It's on Apple TV, so if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Um,
Is
yeah,
it on
it just
anywhere else? Does anyone know?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
Shit. Yeah,
not
I don't
sure.
have. I don't have.
Um,
I did just. I heard about the movie just actually today, and I was thinking, wow, that sounds like a really beautiful movie. So I'm glad that that it was talked about here. That's really awesome.
I
it is,
want
and
to. I want to see it. I'm hoping it gets nominated for Best Picture because then they'll release it in theaters, and that's what I kind of want to see
yeah,
it. I
I
kind
think
of
it
want to
will.
see it
it's
in theaters, so
I think
I,
it
that's
I
what
will.
I'm waiting for.
I'm seeing it get that consideration, and also like best song, the song at the end of the movie.
Beyond the Shore.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's so good, and that whole scene
I mean,
is good. When
yeah.
so yeah, just I can't say enough good things
I mean,
about
I
this
know
movie.
Beyond the Shore is on shortlist for this original song, so
Yeah, I
we'll
feel
see if
like
it actually gets in there.
this could have been my number one. I just saw my number one more, and it stuck with me a little bit more. So, but it's really close. Like this movie is fantastic.
Um, Dylan, yeah, have you seen
Yeah.
Coda?
It was my number 9. Yeah, I love this movie. I think it's the one that, like, if I had to recommend a good cry, but like a happy cry, not a sad cry, like this is what I would recommend. Like I'd be like, yo, you're gonna cry a lot, but it's gonna be a very cathartic cry. I cried so much watching this. I think there's just such a beauty about the way families communicate in general and their just complications, but also the love they have for one another, and then adding this element of deafness, it just adds this extra layer to a typical coming of age family drama. Girl wants to go to college to be a singer, but she has to stay back home to care for her family and be that interpreter, otherwise their family can't continue their fishing business because they are all deaf. And there's that real dilemma that weighs on her. But as a lover of music, as someone who studied musical theater and like really studied music, and also has a passion for deafness and people who are deaf and have some sign language training, I really do love the crossing over of both worlds. There's this one scene at the end, toward the end, where the father basically asks her to sing and then puts his hands on her vocal cords here just to feel the vibrations
Hmm.
and feel that music. And it's just one of the most tear-jerking moments of the year, but just such like a cathartic, it's never sad. It's just this cry of like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's an indescribable feeling, and I love movies that give me that. Yeah, it's a little, it really goes for those emotional moments, and it's very obvious about it. But I like that about this. I think if melodrama is done well, it can really be effective, and I think this is one of those cases. And like Jacob said, Troy Kotzer, amazing. This supporting actor race, I don't think it's necessarily locked up by any one person yet, and I'd love to see him continue the momentum, especially since it seems like it's getting a Best Picture buzz. It seems like number 7 or 8 on the list of most likely Best Picture contenders. So I really think it'll get in, and I think Troy Kotzer, if he gets enough of a push, could be a Best Supporting Actor winner, and I'd love to see it. So
And
great movie.
And I don't think I laughed more than when they pulled up to the school just bumping rap music as loud as they could from their truck.
Right. Yeah. Or the scene where they're having sex, the parents are having sex, and they're so loud because they can't hear, so they don't know how loud they're being, and the girl brings her friend over, and she's like, "Mom, Dad," but then she can't get their attention because they're deaf, so she has to like flash on the lights, and she's like, "Mom, Dad, stop! You're so loud, you can't hear yourselves, but you are really distracting." Yeah, it's very funny too, which is an extra bonus on top of all the tears. So
Jordan, I'm assuming you haven't seen in the Coda.
I have not yet known, unfortunately. So it's when I was actually on Apple earlier, and I was seeing it too. So no, I was not getting it.
But anyway, my number 2 is In the Heights.
nice.
This is a movie that I didn't know what to expect when I went to see it in the cinemas because like I was vaguely familiar that this was a musical that Lin-Manuel Miranda did sort of way back in the day on Broadway. But going in, this was a great movie. Like Anthony Ramos was great, and in my opinion, should be nominated for Best Actor, but I don't think he will because I think this came out too early in the year for any hope for In the Heights to get in anywhere. I'm still holding out hope it will, but this was just another beautiful Latino movie. And once again, Stephanie Beatriz appears in here as well. Talking about crossover of cast, but this is just one of those movies that was beautiful and amazing. And I, as soon as I could get it on DVD, I rushed out and got it because I love it that much. Jordan, what do you think about In the Heights?
I haven't seen it.
Dylan, what do you think about In the Heights?
Yeah, I put this in number 3. I love it. As I said, I think it's the year of the musical. We have Encanto, Tick Tick Boom, West Side Story, In the Heights, Vivo. So many good musicals, and I think this one just really, this one felt like the welcoming of the return of like a big screen movie. Like, you guys haven't been in theaters in so long. Welcome back. Let's all celebrate. Let's just have joy and community and family and just so much energy. It's a really, really amazing motion picture, and I do think while I did put West Side Story higher because it hit me more emotionally, I think In the Heights I had a more fun time watching. It was just the most fun I had with any of these musicals this year. And like you said, the performances, Anthony Ramos is terrific. I wish he was a bigger name than he is, but yeah, really, really great cast. Olga Merediz as well. She has that scene stealing number. Just a really, really great film through and through. And I love how every musical number feels distinctly unique. Like the one they're dancing on the side of a building, and the other one there's all these like fabrics in the air, and one is set in a pool, and one is using the different sidewalks and
96,000.
streets, and yeah, it's there's so much exploration of the different elements of the city at use, and I really like that. So a great visual masterpiece, and just a really, really heartwarming story, and a really engaging one as well.
Eddie, what are your thoughts on In the Heights?
So it was my number 4. So again, we're talking nitpicks. Like this is a fantastic movie. I mean, and talking about breakouts of the year, Wesley Grace, such a standout. Anthony Ramos too is pretty good, really good too. But yeah, I was more on the Wesley Grace camp. The reason again why I was slightly lower was I think the Dreamer storyline which was a storyline that they did just for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
To me, again, when it comes, I like subtle messaging and subtle themes. It was a bit heavy-handed for me. It went, and I thought like the gentrification storyline, which was part of the original musical, was so seamless when compared to it. Just stand it out a little bit. Like it's nitpicks. Like what can I say? It's a great movie.
Danny, what do you think about In the Heights?
I was a little bit disappointed with it. A little bit. I am too a musical lover. Now when I was going into woof woof. Um, going into this one, I was kind of hot off the heels off of The Greatest Showman. So of course, very, very different movie, cool. But and I was late to the party on The Greatest Showman, that's why I'm mentioning it. Um, I don't know, there was something missing from the movie, I felt like, because I love musicals. And when I was also going into it, I kind of thought it was going to be similar to maybe La La Land, kind of a little bit on the slower side. Um, I didn't hate it. I don't have anything really bad to say about it. Like I don't have. Maybe it's one of those ones I got to rewatch too, because I'm like that. But I don't have anything bad to say about it. There was a lot of catchiness. I liked the differences in the story. I liked the idea of the movie. I just think that it didn't have that musical magic. I guess perhaps that's what it was for me. Because afterwards, I was like, oh, there it was. So I'm again, like a lot of other movies for me, I'm gonna have to rewatch it and maybe I'll end up loving it. But yeah, I saw it.
Yeah. And Jacob, what did you think about In the Heights?
I really enjoyed this. I had it at number 5. But honestly, like my 5, 4, and 3 could be interchanged, and
Yeah.
I'd be okay with it. I thought the opening musical scene was fantastic, and it's probably like it's up there with my favorite scenes of the year. I thought the music was fantastic. I thought the performances were great. It had the emotional moments when it needed to. Just overall, it was just a great musical, in my opinion. And Corey Hawkins, he was really great
Yeah.
in this movie too.
He can sing.
Yeah, I didn't know he could sing.
He knew he could rap.
I knew he could make
did not know he
beats.
could sing.
Yeah.
I knew he could make beats, but I didn't know he could sing too. So that was a nice surprise. Yeah, 96,000 was a great number. I can put the soundtrack on and listen to it on repeat. And so yeah, just overall, like up until Free Guy, this was the most fun I had watching a movie for the year.
But yeah, before we go on to people's number ones, and I think if most people had the same number one, I don't know. I'll find out. Jordan, what are some honorable mentions that you had for the year?
Some stuff. Let's see. Luca. I thought was a really well made animated film too. So I give some love to Luca. A smaller film called Together, with Ed Helms and Patty Harrison, about two people kind of had a life's journey. He wants to change, and it's another really good friendship movie that doesn't try to shoehorn in relationship. I really enjoyed the new Candyman from this year. Stillwater with Matt Damon, really great moments towards the end there, and another good animated film, Ron Gone Wrong. That was a lot of fun as well.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
Dylan, what are some honorable mentions that you had?
Yeah, I have a few. The Power of the Dog, a very good slow burn revenge western. You don't know it's a revenge story until halfway through, which is really interesting. The Harder They Fall, another western. I don't like westerns, but I like those two a lot. Venom, Let There Be Carnage, a lot of fun. The Night House, a good horror film. I did put Matrix Resurrections in my honorable mentions. I did have Encanto, Red Rocket, the new Sean Baker film. Last Night in Soho, Spencer, the biopic about Princess Diana, starring Kristen
Haven't seen
Stewart,
that one yet.
who should win that Oscar. I'd be very happy to see it. And then this might be a controversial one, but at number 13, right missing the list, I had Spider-Man No Way Home, which we'll talk about later. I'm assuming.
Cool, yeah.
Oh, poor Jordan, you knocked him out.
I'm sorry.
JD,
It's a good year for movies. Good year for movies. It's still number 13.
So
JD, what are some honorable mentions that you had?
So the best rom-com of the year, Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, was on my. Literally just missed my list. It was number 13. It
Couple
just
of the year.
missed.
Couple of the year.
Yep, couple of the year, no doubt. Cruella was one that also just missed my list. Internals actually was a film.
Internals or Eternals?
Eternals, sorry, Eternals. Eternals was a film that it's late. It's like 11 o'clock. Here.
Oh no, I hear you. I work in the morning too, so I get it.
Yeah, Eternals literally just. I think it's it was the most fascinating superhero film of the year. A lot of people have a lot of thoughts about that one. I really liked it.
Same. I liked it.
Val, the Val Kilmer documentary, was also really good. And then lastly, this was on a lot on my list too. Barely missed my list too. No Sudden Move, Stephen Sondheim's movie that was a HBO Max exclusive with Don Cheadle. It was a star-studded cast. Brendan Fraser. I miss Brendan Fraser so much. I'm so excited to see him next year in that play. The
Whale.
The Whale. Yeah.
Darren Aronofsky directing. Yeah.
I'm so excited about that. That was a lot of fun.
And I believe he's in Killers of the Moonflower this year.
The new Martin Scorsese movie.
Yeah, he took over one of the roles. I forget which role he took over for, but yeah, he's going to be in it.
But
just
anyway,
give him all the roles.
Brendan Fraser playing Venom. But Danny, what are some honorable mentions that you have?
Nothing that hasn't been mentioned. Eternals. I really liked it. I got to see it in theaters. It was a coin toss between me and the other half there, between going to see that or going to see Ghostbusters. And I made a valid argument, especially in a pandemic era. I said, you see, Ghostbusters will still be in theaters long after Eternals is gone. So we have to go see Eternals in theaters. I'm glad I went to go see it in theaters. However, I will also not lie, there were a couple of parts that I nodded off. So I did end up going to see it. I saw it a second time. I really liked the movie. It didn't make my top 10 because I didn't feel that, again, that movie magic kind of thing. There were parts of it that I really thoroughly enjoyed. It is obviously it varies different than a lot of the MCU movies, which is something I actually like about that. I really like the fact that it's, if someone talked about the movie just in general, like a general movie going audience, they're not going to sit there and say, oh yeah, it's that superhero movie, even though it is a superhero movie. They're not going to piece it together, I think, with the MCU. And I really like that. So there's that one. I put in Black Widow as an honorable mention, and that's just basically because of the family dynamic between all of them. And Yelena, I don't know what it is about what's her face?
Florence Pugh.
Thank you, Florence Pugh. I love her. She's just so likable, especially in that character. I've only seen her in a couple of other things, and she's almost contagious. Like I want to hang out with her.
We don't deserve Florence Pugh in the MCU. I will say it right now. We don't deserve it. We just don't.
Yeah. So I put that in there. In the Heights is in my honorable mention because who's that? Is that me?
No. Somebody had a fire. Somebody having somebody cooking some s'mores. I'd like some.
So I did, yeah. So I put In the Heights in my list because, again, like I am a musical lover. I didn't have anything bad about it, and it was a movie that I did enjoy it. And I have Dune, and the last one I have is Belfast in my honorable mention.
Jacob, what are some honorable mentions?
Oh yeah, I'll shout out Black Widow again. Really enjoyed Luca. I'm a big defender of Halloween Kills. I think it was. I enjoyed it. King
Halloween
Richard
Kills. Sorry.
Yeah.
That should be on my honorable mention.
I'm a defender of that movie. I really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah. King Richard, strictly for Will Smith's performance, I thought he was fantastic. And then Raya and the Last Dragon. Don't Look Up. I enjoyed it. And then I'll shout out Encanto. It was number 13. And then it's not quite a movie, but I do want to shout out Bo Burnham, Inside. I thought it was extremely well done. Bo Burnham, I'd like to see more from him. So keep making stuff.
Check out his other specials if you haven't seen his other specials.
Yeah, all of his stuff is amazing.
But yeah, for me, on mentions, I'm going to try and bring up stuff no one else has. The Fear Street trilogy movies, like I 94 was my favorite one out of the bunch, but they're all very good. Fatherhood, the Kevin Hart Netflix movie, that was surprisingly like heartfelt, and it's just one that I really enjoyed. Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar is a movie that what is so weird and wacky. I loved every minute of it. And talking about musicals, I really enjoyed Everybody's Talking About Jamie. Like it's one of those ones that I thought was a lot of fun, and yeah. But with that, we move over to
Um,
number one.
Before we do that, I have a quick question. I don't know if I somehow spaced. Did we not? It might be some people's number one. I think it's going to be Dylan's number one. Did we not talk about Tick Tick Boom yet?
It's
I think it
somebody's
was a.
number one.
I think it was the
It
punt.
definitely is. It is
My number
somebody's
5.
number. It's somebody's number one. It is.
Oh, okay. So we haven't talked about it yet, though, right?
Yes, correct. It
We
was
haven't got
Punch
around to talking about
Okay,
it.
thank you. I thought maybe I was like I completely spaced or something like that because I'm thinking I love that movie and I didn't remember talking about it. So okay.
And I do want to
But
shout out
anyway.
one last honorable mention because Chris Diaz brought it up in the chat. Mass, I watched it yesterday. It's very good acting ensemble piece. It's a very small film. Not many people have heard of it. Not many people have seen it. But
What is
Mass,
it called?
it's called Mass. It's about a family gathering. Two couples. One is a couple of a school shooting victim, and the other is the couple of the school shooter. And they meet up
Oh
after
wow, okay.
6 years after the event. It's a very good film. I didn't put it on my list, but it was on my honorable mentions, and Chris reminded me of it in the comments. So thank you, Chris.
But that being said, Jordan, what is your number one?
All right. Excuse me. It might be the safe answer, but it's got to be the answer as far as my heart's concerned. Spider-Man: No Way Home. I really like the first one with Tom Holland. And obviously, spoiler warning. What happens? You know what happens. We all know. I won't say it, but it's a great moment. And they handle it really well too. Between them and also the villains, I was afraid it was going to be really quick cameos, and it's not. I feel like they handle a lot of the characters with a really interesting story arcs here. Some more Defoe is never a bad thing. And yeah, just it continues to find a way. Another Marvel movie that's high on my list, but I feel like it's got to be Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Dylan, what are your thoughts on Spider-Man: No Way Home?
Yeah, I'm the one of the 6 of us who didn't have it on my list only because it's my 13. It was like right teetering on, and I decided to leave it off because I knew everyone else was going to talk about it, and I wanted to bring up some smaller films. But yeah, it's my favorite Marvel movie of the year, my second favorite Marvel thing after WandaVision. It is really, really great. I think the second half for me is a lot stronger than the first, only because I think the trailers kind of gave away, I think, a little too much as to what was going on in the first half. I wish they had just kind of kept all the villains anonymous themselves, because I think that would have been even more awesome to see in theaters for the first time. And I wish they hadn't shown anything on the Statue of Liberty in the trailers, because there were things that people pointed out of certain things that were maybe edited out of the trailers. And I think that kind of just made me a little less enthusiastic while seeing it. But again, I can't complain too much. It was a great Spider-Man movie honoring just the character of Spider-Man. I like how it's also about real superheroism and the fact that he wants to fix villains rather than just kill them, which I feel like some Marvel heroes just like are, they kill more than they should, because that is ultimately what a superhero is. It's someone who tries to do better and not just kill the villains and the enemy. And I like how this movie really addressed that. And I love the ending too. I think the ending puts this whole series in a really interesting direction. I don't know if they'll keep following through with that and just make him the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and continue along that path, or if we're going to see more of Ned and MJ in the future, if we're going to see him just kind of go off and do his own thing. But it leaves a lot of a lot of openness to do whatever they want with the character, and I did like that, and I was very, very excited. It was very fan servicey, but as fans, we were all serviced, and I think they did a good job in doing that. So it just missed the list only because I wanted to bring up some other films that were lesser known, but yeah, it's a very good film.
JD, what are your thoughts on Spider-Man: No Way Home?
So it was my number 2, and it number 1 and number 2 vacillated for me for a long time. There may be an actor in this movie that is in my number 1, but that being said, again, people talk about fan service as it's a bad thing. It's bad when it's not done well, but this was done correctly. And I think, yes, they gave a little bit too much away in the trailers, but it wouldn't have made as much if they didn't give that stuff away in the trailers too. So it's a catch-22. Like, and William Dafoe is just, that was in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything. Like, William Dafoe as Green Goblin is my favorite Spider-Man live action villain. So seeing him back was just fantastic. So yeah, I think fan service gets a bad rap.
Danny, what are your thoughts on Spider-Man No Way Home?
It was everything. So Spider-Man was my introduction to superheroes. So he might not be now like my ultimate favorite superhero, but growing up, he was the one that I resonated with the most, and he was the one that was the very first superhero I was ever introduced to, and I've seen every single Spider-Man movie in theaters, all in different parts of Canada. Fun fact. And so for me, I hold all three Spider-Men in a very near and dear place in my heart. And from the beginning of Amazing Spider-Man, loved Andrew Garfield. I always loved him in the role. And spoiler, so I don't care what you say. But for me, yeah. So I don't have a definitive who's the best, who's the worst. Because you know what, they're all playing Spider-Man, and to me, what matters most is just a good movie. So,
Yeah.
And a good actor playing it, hopefully, But yeah, no, I loved the movie. I loved everything about it. Willem Dafoe, just that man can do no wrong, in my opinion. I just same as some of the other actors, I've never seen anything that he's been in that I disliked, and I liked that his iteration of the Goblin went so much further, and it was like just new layers. He was like the ogre of goblins. There was every kind of layer possible, and that was really fantastic. I like the changes that they did. Now when it comes to either the fan service or the trailers and things like that, I am in the minority, because for me, I watched the one trailer. I did not look up anything. I didn't go searching like a crazy person and go and try and let's go find every little detail. I don't know who has that time. I don't. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna watch it when it comes out.
So you know why I was spoiled? It was because they, the Big Brother's watching, right? So like, you have like those Google apps, and like they'll give you like articles that you think you'll like. Oh, take a look at this screenshot of
Then
this
don't
person.
click on it. That's what I do. I just don't click.
I'm not even trying to click on it, but
I
it's
did
like
watch
it's
a lot
literally
of.
but it's in the like it's the screenshot.
It's a little picture on the
Yes,
article.
Yeah,
that's true.
like it's the thumbnail. I'm not even clicking it. It's just the thumbnail of the article. So that's kind of how I knew about that.
The only real debate that I ever had for the whole time before I saw the movie was whether or not certain people were in the movie. And for me, it was like, you know what, either they are or they aren't. I believed it the entire time that they would be. However, as we all know, the Oscar goes to Andrew Garfield. So I mean, I watched a lot of those interviews that he was talking about, because like as I mentioned before, I do watch a lot of the interviews and press junkets. So I did watch a lot of those. I will say the one surprise I did have, who I don't necessarily needed him to have a lot more of a role, but I wanted to see just a tiny bit more of him, was Thomas Hayden Church in his role, because it seemed like a lot of recycled stuff from Spider-Man 3, and I really like him as an actor. And I remember just days even before going to see the movie, I was discussing with a girlfriend. I'm like, okay, well, we know that Sandman is in the movie, but is Thomas Hayden Church going to be in it? And so that was a nice little surprise. And the only other thing that I'll mention before anyone else talks is the Andrew Garfield catching MJ. Hearts everywhere
Yeah,
on the floor.
yeah. From what I understand, I don't think Thomas Hayden Church and Risa Farnes. I think most of their stuff was actually recycled. I don't think they were actually around.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably had some voiceover stuff and that, but I
And
don't
that
think
was
they were actually.
disappointing to me. Like, I understand why. Like, obviously the movie was so jam packed, right? So like, it's not really a complaint. It's just more or
Yeah.
less a nitpicky thing. Kind of like, okay, I really like that actor. Same thing with Risa Farnes too. I mean, like, hello, such a great cast.
But Jacob, what did you think of Spider-Man: No Way Home?
Oh, I absolutely love this movie. It's my number one.
Yeah.
It's the only movie I saw in theaters twice this year. I saw it, in the same weekend. Yeah, no, I love this. It almost felt like two different movies. Like the first half and the second half were so different, like in tone. And then once Aunt May, goes, like the movie's just dark, like both in tone, but like also it's just dark. Like, and I appreciated that aspect of the filmmaking. And yeah, no, that got me. I almost cried in the theater.
I did cry.
That
Yeah,
also
no,
that
I got emotional. I didn't, but
also that death puts this whole trilogy in a new context. Like this whole trilogy
Very that.
is the origin story of Spider-Man. This is like the last step before he becomes the Spider-Man we know and love. Like, which is
Right.
so interesting because before that you thought, well, no, maybe he already was, and it just I thought that was a really
He was Spider-Boy, and now he is Spider-Man.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's really it really puts that death puts a new context on this whole trilogy.
And thank God they got rid of the Iron Suit. I was like, let Iron Man be the Iron One. Let Spider-Man just be him.
Oh, that's the suit that they revealed. That shot at the end when he's going through with the handmaid suit. I'm like, yes.
How
Yeah, it was
gorgeous
cool.
was that scene? Like that was just perfect. I thought it was a perfect end.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna go quick on this because one, it's late, and two, everyone's already said most stuff anyway. But yeah, I mean, if you want a good example of fan service not done right,
Yes. Yes. 100%. 100%.
You know what? Just because you share that, so one of my clients where I work, he is obsessed with Space Jam. He loves it. And to be clear, I work with adults who have disabilities. Just to throw that out there. So he is obsessed with the original one, the new one. He wants to listen to the soundtracks. Oh yeah.
Here's
So I
the
haven't
thing.
actually watched the movie, but
Here's the thing. If you like the first Space Jam, you'll like this one. If you
No.
don't like
Nonsense.
this first Space
Nonsense.
Jam, like most of us don't, then yeah.
Lies, fallacies, fairy tales.
I like the first Space Jam. I did not like this one.
Nah.
But anyway,
I think there's something to be said about nostalgia, right? The nostalgia factor of it.
yeah. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Space Jam anyway. Unless someone has it at their number, which God forbid I'll be surprised.
Still haven't revealed mine yet. I don't. Maybe it
Get
is.
the
food. Anyway,
it is 3 hours for this.
But anyway, it was an enjoyable movie. Dylan, what's your number?
My number one. Now, none of you brought this up in your honorable mentions, so I'm assuming you guys haven't seen it or maybe even heard of it. It is a French film that won the Palme d'Or at Cannes Film Festival. It is called Titane. Titane.
Oh, yeah.
It is a horror movie by Julia DeCarno, who directed Raw, the movie about the cannibal teenager, a few years ago. This movie, without spoiling too much, is about a girl who is a serial killer and is on the run and decides to basically change her look to disguise herself as a young boy, who then finds her way into this man's household, this man who has been looking for his son, who has been missing for 10 years. She sees the poster, the wanted poster, makes herself, basically breaks her nose and changes her face around to make herself look like this guy's son. So then she can reintroduce herself as himself into this man's life. This woman lacks human connection, and there are many interesting moments about that I won't spoil, but she basically finds her way into this man's life, who is also struggling with being alone, having not seen his son in 10 years. And together they form this very interesting sort of connection, this very parental father-son relationship. But turns out she finds out she's pregnant. So she has to conceal that because she keeps growing, and she has to conceal the fact that she's pregnant while also posing as this man's son that has been missing. So it is a very complicated story, and it is one of the most shocking, like, body horror, polarizing films of the year, but also one of the most tender and sentimental and emotional ones. It's weird because it kind of crosses that bridge really beautifully between the horror elements, because the first act is much more about the horror. It's her as the serial killer and seeing what she does and seeing her lack of, human emotion and the way she like goes about the way she kills people. And then the second half is her bonding with this guy and seeing just how that bridge crosses over. It's a really beautiful film. I wanted to put it number one on the list because it's a movie I haven't stopped thinking about since I saw it. I don't want to watch it again because it was so perfect the first time I saw it, but it's one I want to recommend to people because I think it is something that is unconventional, but if it hits the right person at the right time, I think it's a really powerful film. It won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. It is a criminally underseen film this year. It did not get on the short list for Best International Film, which is also criminal, but it makes sense because it is very polarizing. There are some weird images in this, and I think the ending itself is one of those wild endings that will have people talking who see it. So I really do recommend Titan, and I think it deserves a spot on my list, and I think number one just seems fitting because of all these films, it's the one that I think about the most and that I come back to. And I know not many people have seen it, but that's what I'm here to do, is to recommend films to maybe people who haven't heard of it. So I really, really enjoyed it.
So I saw the trailer. It was playing by me. I saw the trailer and I'm like, nope, I'm good.
There you go. Yep, it's very, very, very polarizing.
Yes, I respect it. It just wasn't. I just saw the trailer. I'm like, nope, it's not for me.
Anyone seen Titan?
I haven't, but I did hear about it when I from Robert Meyer Burnett when he was on the John Campea show. So I knew about the movie, but of course, I mean there would be no way for me to see it in theaters anywhere near me, that's for sure. But and I hadn't watched any trailers on it because I didn't, when he described it, it didn't sound very interesting. All he said was a French film. From what I remember, I could be remembering it wrong, but just saying, "Oh, it's a French film," is just kind of like, okay, here's a poutine. Tell me more. What's in it? So yeah. So thank you for having it in your number one, because that I love horror and I love the kind of, it sounds like a kind of like mystery. Sounds really cool.
Like horror, body horror / thriller / like really compelling character study.
Yeah, it sounds fascinating.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not a big foreign language person, but movie. But this is one I'm kind of curious to see, just because from how crazy it is. So I might check it out when I get a chance. Anyway, JD, what is your number one?
Oh, let's guess.
So my number one is Tick Tick Boom.
Yes.
I love this movie. I unabashedly love this movie. From moment one, I just kind of, I saw this in theaters. Actually, I found this in a theater, and I went to go see it. It spoke to me. It spoke to me. I'm 32 or about or 31, going on 32. Like it's the time of your life, and I just made a career pivot in my life. It speaks to that time in your life, and Andrew Garfield just gives such an amazing performance. I will actually be upset if he doesn't win and Will Smith does. Like, I get that people are like saying Will Smith. I agree, he gives a great performance, but to me this is another level that Will Smith is great and he'll get it because of he's been around longer, but like to me this there's just so much, like, and for being such a serious film, it is also one of the funniest films.
It's very heartwarming. Absolutely.
It's funniest films I've seen all year. Therapy is my favorite scene all year.
Me too.
You
Me
know,
too.
Yeah.
the fact that there's this sense that, like, you know, when you're trying to pivot, you're trying to distract, humor, distractional humor that I think John Larson understood, and I think Lin-Manuel Miranda brilliantly portrays here. And there are a lot of
Yeah.
parallels between Lin-Manuel Miranda and John Larson.
Yeah.
They have similar career trajectories. They were trying to do similar things with musicals, and he really plays with that. There's a sense of irony that he understands with John Larson, where he's concerned about running out of time, and you know, there's a scene with Robert G. Jesus, which I wish he was getting more supporting actor. People are talking about Andrew Garfield. Robert D. Jesus is also really amazing. Like, he's like,
That
no,
was
you
his
don't
best
have
friend in the movie, right?
that was the best friend
Okay. Thank you.
who has AIDS. Like, he's like, no, you're not running out of time, but we do know he's running out of time, but we're not. It's not running out of time for the reasons that he's suspecting. Which I think there's just so much about this movie that I really love, and it just spoke to me, and that's why it's one.
Danny, what do you think about Tick Tick Boom?
I watched it on a whim. What was I planning on watching? I was planning on watching something else that night, anyways. And on a whim, I said, you know what? I'm hearing so many good things about it, and of course, I love Andrew Garfield. So I think he's fabulous. And again, too, just to add on, I watched a bunch of interviews, and he was promoting Tick Tick Boom in one of his interviews, and I was hearing him talk about it. And I was hearing, I think they were talking, someone, I forget who it was talking about him singing, and he was talking about the training he had gone through. And so I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I really need to watch this movie. And I know I wanted to watch it for this as well. And of course, again, it's a musical. So, and based on Rent, something I grew up loving. So I was like, okay, we're watching this. And I watched it, and I was like, okay, it's starting. And it was like just a climb right from start to finish for me, right from what's happening here in this movie. Am I going to love it? And then I absolutely loved it. I think his performance was fabulous. I don't know if he's going to win because, of course, you know, even for me, I haven't seen the what's the Will Smith movie?
King Richard.
Thank you,
King
King
Richard.
Richard. Yeah, so I haven't seen that, so I can't comment on his performance. But I mean, it is Will Smith, and but he definitely deserves a nomination. So I mean, I hope that Andrew Garfield gets it, whether it's a nomination or a win of any kind. He is such an underlooked actor. I think his range that he does, even my other half there, like, he doesn't watch a lot of different genre movies. So the second he started seeing Andrew Garfield in this one, he's like, I didn't know he could sing or act this way. He was very, very surprised. He's like, but that's Spider-Man, you know? So, so I really enjoyed watching the movie. I was pleasantly surprised with it, the whole cast. I liked the shots in between where it kind of went from being serious, and then like that diner scene where it kind of comes apart and becomes a stage. I really, really enjoyed that aspect. And again, going off you guys too, the therapy scene, that was beautiful, and just it was so heartfelt and so real. It breaks your heart and lifts you back up and breaks you down a little bit all over again. And I wouldn't argue with anyone for it being their number one. So
It's said. I don't think I laughed more in a theater than I did with Tick Tick Boom. Again, its use of functional humor as a defense mechanism is just.
yeah.
I think it's brilliant. I don't. It's yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to be quick here. Just watch. They're going to make this Amazing Spider-Man 3 that everyone wants, but it's going to be a movie version of Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, and it's going to be full-on musical. And they're going to get
I'm here
Andrew
for
Garfield
it.
I would like to see
Just watch.
Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, the film adaptation.
Instead of Rogers the musical, it's the Amazing Spider-Man the musical.
Again, they could make
Spider-Man
Spider-Man
2
turn
not
off
the-
the dark. They could make
Yeah.
Spider-Man turn off the dark into a
Yeah,
musical.
that
I would
was
love
where
to
my
see
joke
him
was
play it.
coming from. Was a really poorly received musical that was not
Yeah.
conceived of for stage.
I saw it. It
But
was not that good. No.
Anyway, Jacob, what are your thoughts on Tick Tick Boom?
I really enjoyed this. It was my number 9. I think Andrew Garfield gives a great performance. I mean, he had a great year overall.
Mhm.
Lin-Manuel Miranda had a great year overall. I think his direction in this movie is fantastic. I think he should get a Best Director nomination. I think Andrew Garfield should get a Best Actor nomination. Robin DeJesus should get a Best Supporting Actor
Yeah.
nomination. This movie is just fantastic. The musical numbers are great. I enjoyed the way they went from like the stage to, life as it was happening. I thought that was really well done, and just overall a really, really solid movie. One that I will probably go back to quite often.
Yeah, I mean, I also really enjoyed this. This was my number 8. It was a lot of fun. I was on Netflix. I was going to watch something, then I completely forgot Tick Tick Boom was coming out this day. So I thought, "Well, I'm just going to watch this instead." And it was enjoyable. For all of the things everyone said. Jordan, have you seen Tick Tick Boom?
I don't attack me. I have not.
Go watch it now. Go.
But
Netflix.
I think it's
But
actually
that being said,
it's actually one of the few movies that I think works both in a theater and at home. So
Yeah.
I think you definitely should watch it.
but that being said, we've already talked about Dan's number 1, which was Spider-Man No Way Home. Well, sort of as well, but either way, it was the number 1. We've already talked about Jacob's number 1, which was Spider-Man No Way Home. We haven't talked about my number 1. My number 1 is another one of those technically 2020s but wide release in 2021 movies. It's The Father. It's been sitting up there the whole year. Look,
What was
this
it?
is a movie.
The Father.
Oh, sure. Tell us, Malcolm. What is it?
Look, The Father is a really good story about like the father. It's about dementia. It's a really good sort of telling of what it is with dementia and all that. And it's just definitely the way it's done because it's Florian Zeller and it's done in a way that even as watching it, you got no idea which is the reality or which is the father's reality. It's just done in a way that helps if you experience dementia. And this is just one that's been sort of just like Jatan was for Dylan. This is one I've constantly been thinking about and recommending to people all the time. It's just stuck with me. That's why it's
Anthony
been
Hopkins.
stayed at number 1. But I mean, it's not an easy watch. It is definitely really tough, but it is a good movie regardless. And Anthony Hopkins definitely deserved Best Actor. I just wish the Oscars didn't move stuff around.
So what you're saying is don't watch this if you're having a bad day already.
No.
Yeah, no.
Watch Tick Tick Boom 30 times before this to cheer yourself up.
Yes, correct. 100%.
Okay.
So, Jordan, have you seen The Father?
Yes. This is one of those nitpicks of I didn't have my list because it did Oscars and comments at 2020, 2021. But it's definitely worth talking about. There's a reason Hopkins won. He's fantastic in it. And it is. It's interested in the way it's edited, as you're kind of put in that spot of not necessarily knowing exactly what day and when, and getting characters confused and whatnot. And it's a real heartbreaking, really good movie.
Dylan, what are your thoughts on The Father?
Yeah, I would have put it on the list if I counted it in this chunk. Even though I did put Judas on this list, I did see it in 2020, so I didn't put The Father on. But yeah, Best Actor, very well deserved. I just wish, like you said, they hadn't screwed him over by making it the last award of the night, and for the first time in years putting Best Picture before Best Actor, and then ending the night on, hey, we're going to give this amazing award to Chadwick Boseman to honor his passing, and then it goes to Anthony Hopkins, who is asleep in Wales, and isn't even there to accept his award via video call. And I feel bad for him because then he had to make a statement the next day, and obviously he feels like shit because he's like, well,
Shit, how
I
horrible
just
would
beat
that be?
I just beat the dead guy, and I wasn't even there to accept it. But like, thank you, Academy, thank you. But yeah, no, it's a very well deserved performance, very well deserved Oscar. That whole movie just is an emotional wreck. Yeah, I love the use of production design, also like just the very subtle changes in the way the room looks depending on which time of the day you're looking at this story from this man's perspective, depending on his dementia, how certain picture frames are moved around and certain colors on the walls are different, and they're very subtle things that I really enjoyed about it. I believe it also won adapted screenplay, which it should, because it adapted a play to screen very well. It started as a play, and I think with a lot of these movie musicals that we're talking about this year, like it is very hard to adapt to the screen, and all these musicals that we talked about and The Father as a play did a very good job in doing so. So a really good film. I'm glad you shouted it out, Malcolm, because yeah, it's a great film.
Yeah, and I mean, I believe the director of this was the original person who wrote the play, so I think it's just fitting that he did it himself, because never he knows what it's supposed to look like. But JD, what are your thoughts on The Father?
Oh yeah, I thought it was one of the most unique films I saw early in 2021. Again, and I was also somebody who felt more than Chadwick Boseman. I thought Anthony Hopkins was the better performance, and if it was, I thought Chadwick Boseman was going to win because based how they were setting everything up. And it's a good performance. And I thought because they couldn't give it to Chadwick Boseman again, they were going to give it to him. But I was like, in a vacuum, I thought Anthony Hopkins was the better performance. And I wish, like you and Dylan said, I wish they just did a weird structure that year. But I didn't really consider it because, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't consider any films that were part of last year's Oscars. But it's a worthy choice.
But that being said, Danny, you haven't seen it, correct?
No, I hadn't even heard about it. But I'm gonna write it down. I think the ones that were mentioned tonight that I wrote down was Coda, Father, Pig, and Titane. I don't know if I'm missing any others of the ones that I'd actually. Oh yeah, the French Dispatch, but I already have that on my watch list. So I'm gonna add these ones to my watch list.
Jacob, have you seen The Father? But that being said, it's been a long show. I didn't plan for it to be 3 hours, but I think had we done every installment separately, it would have been a lot longer. But that being said, Jordan, we can move on you online.
Yeah, go over to the Pierce Co, like Pierce here, the Pierce Co channel, podcast and show about shows, movie reviews. I also do a top 10, all sorts of fun stuff over there, as well as movie trivia. We do every week as well. You'll see a couple of these familiar faces. If anyone else would like to join, just message me. Do movie trivia every week, except for Jacob. Don't message me. Over at the Pierce Wrestling channel, we'll do wrestling trivia, exclusive wrestling matches you'll only find on that channel, as well as Real Pro Wrestling Company that I help run in Florida. We're running shows at Fort Myers, Ivy Maria, in the month of March, and always matches on there. Chris Diaz got some good, got a good list there as well. All good flicks. Licorice Pizza, I got to see that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's on my list. Sneaks it on the checklist for me later on.
And Dylan, we can be on you online.
Yeah, you can find me at the Dill Pickle Movie Network, DYL, like my name, not like the spiced dill. Yeah, I started the channel about a year ago almost, and it's really taken off, and I'm very, very grateful to be involved here and have some crossover with some people who have also done Rankum and stuff. I do a show called Picture This, where I go over every best picture nominee in history year by year. Every month we do a different year. The next month we have coming up is 1980, which is the year of Raging Bull. But yeah, we also do a Marvel podcast every single week, and I do reviews every so often. So yeah, check that out. And thank you once again, Malcolm, for having me on. It's always a pleasure and always some fun ranking them here on the show.
JD, where can people find you online?
So I'm at. You can follow me on Twitter at JD Domash. I do some. I also am in the fan leagues. I do Inner Geekdom trivia. I may be doing something with one of these panelists pretty soon. It's pretty exciting. I don't know. I mean, maybe. But you can follow all updates at JD Domash.
Danny, where can people find you online?
Nowhere. Don't bug me. I'll be asleep. No. I'm just kidding. Find me on the Full Metal
Mhm.
page, I suppose.
Jay.
Find me around here. Jacob is muted. He doesn't want to talk no more. He's done. He's sleeping.
No, my mic's doing something. So, no, yeah, you can find me. I just recently started a channel. It's called a podcast about dot.
About what?
I have two at the moment. There's a podcast about movies that I do with Austin Howell. We've got about 3 episodes right now, and then I just recorded the first episode of a podcast about wrestling with Jordan Owens. I got to it. Okay, settle
you
down.
sound so enthused about it. Let me jump right on it and go with.
No, it was a lot of fun. It was a good conversation. So if you like movies and you like wrestling and you like hearing people talk about them, then give it a listen. If not, then don't. But please do.
Maybe I'm not reading you, Mike.
I mean, but yeah, be hosting Rankum every week. We go back to the usual format for Rankum next week. I always do like to doing the best of insert year here, or at least the first one of the year as a something to celebrate everyone's top 12, as opposed to if it gets bored out, then talk about it. If it's left off the cutting room floor, then we don't talk about it. But so I always like doing that for the start of the year ones. But the poll's up now. Go vote. But that being said, you can also find me over on Full Metal with Full Metal Random. Disney Animated Championship match is coming this week. It's late. Just keep listening shit.